It's Friday, March 8th, 2024. With our show segment.
We had a whole show that we did before we even started recording. I just want to note that for half an hour.
Occasionally, I think I should just hit record when we open the call, just in case.
No, because honestly, it's more private. Usually, is what it is.
Well, usually, but I could erase it then. Yeah. I could hit stop and go, okay, don't get rid.
Usually you and I do like a pre-show that's just us talking, but then I realize as we're talking that it is essentially the show. We're just doing a slightly more personal version of it before we start recording. It's very funny.
Yeah, that's true.
So you were shilling. Go ahead, chill away.
Yes, patreon.com/Ozone Nightmare is the primary avenue. I don't know. Is it primary? Whatever. Actually, I shouldn't say it. It's one of the two primary avenues of support. There is also a PayPal donation link that you can access from the show's homepage. I don't know. I don't know if it matters. I mean, if it's easier, I can see if I can create a short URL to that. I don't know if anybody really cares. I mean, it's not like it's hard to go to the show homepage. But anyway, you'll see a PayPal logo on the show homepage if you go there. And you can click on that, and that will take you to what is still a amazingly working free PayPal donation link that they've never broken somehow. And then you will see other support links also. There's one that looks like a very short book with a bookmark that will take you to Lando's Amazon author page. You will see a little skull that will take you to my art links. You will see a YouTube channel link where there is a variety of different things going on there. And that's it, right? Oh, did I set up a buy me a coffee thing for the show? I don't know if I did. Jeez, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look. I think I set one up for me for my art stuff, but I guess I should set one up for the show too, because that's apparently very popular. Oh, and I think I'm gonna start streaming some stuff on the YouTube channel. Wait, how am I gonna do that on mine? Because I have the two different channels. I tested it on mine, on the Ozone Art Foundry YouTube link, because that was artwork based. I did do a stream on Twitch not too long ago where I just talked about fonts and shopped fonts on Behance for like 45 minutes. That was very fun. It was fun. So that's on there. It's on the YouTube. Yeah, it should be live on our. Hold on, is it there? That I actually, somebody showed up for that and they were very entertained. So I'm probably going to start doing that more because I do have a lot of fun just geeking out on fonts. Literally, it's all I was doing was scrolling through the Behance fonts section and looking at fonts. Oh, it isn't live yet, but it will be. Yeah. So. And that's it as far as the shill stuff, I think. Yeah, I think that's it as far as I can remember. So I had a little opener thing, which is great. This is just a fun little thing that there's a website that's been getting some attention lately called, let's see, the actual title of what is the title of the actual website? Hold on. Final Fantasy VIII is the best. HTTPS FF8 is the .best.
Sorry.
Yes.
FF8 is
I'll
the
link
best.
Is the dot best.
Is the dot best?
Yeah, you can do pretty much dot everything now, which is both great and stupid. Did you find it?
Yeah.
Click the first link on that page with the where it's got what's his face drinking the
F8 fucking rules.
And then what's in small type underneath?
Eat my ass.
Because he knows it's an unpopular opinion. I've said this for years. I love Final Fantasy VIII is far and away the best one I've ever played.
Which one's 8?
That's the one with the gun blade. That's the one where you summoned like Diablo and all that stuff.
Yeah. Hold on.
Yeah.
I love the look of that game. I love the look of it. But play-wise, I found other ones more entertaining.
You know what sucks is I just realized
yeah.
Fuck.
I
missed the trick here.
What's that?
I should have had the. Damn it! You know what? I'll insert it after the fact.
What's that?
This game has what is in my top 10 video game sound effects of all time.
Oh, is
period. Which
is
listen.
What I was about to say to you was the main guy whose name I can never remember. What's the main character's name?
Oh, Squall.
Squall.
No, sorry, not Squall. No, wait, no, because yes, Squall. Cloud is 7, yeah. Squall is 8. I always mix those up because they're cloud-based
Squall,
or storm-based.
Squall, I think of all the Final Fantasy characters, I love the look of him the most.
Yeah, and I like the gun blade.
With the furry collar and the gun blade and like the leather outfit. He is so fucking cool looking.
Yeah.
But I just didn't enjoy the gameplay as much as I've enjoyed other ones.
Well, it's got the same early Final Fantasy problem where if you do not level correctly, you're stuck, which is frustrating. And that's the problem with the early ones is they really, I mean, I think later ones too after this, but that was a very common problem. But this summon of Diablo, which I will, if I can, I got to remember, I'm going to make a note or I'll forget. I will insert the sound effect for people because this is still the greatest sound effect, or among the greatest sound effects of a game. This when he turns into the meteor or whatever and hits the ground, there is this sound that is generated that is so sonically beautiful.
Plus, who's the main villain in that?
In that one, the main villain's name. That's a good question. What was the main villain for that?
I think one of the
it was that woman, the woman who's the sorceress. And she does that really cool thing where she walks through a portal, which I think is just beautiful.
I think one of the problems people have with that game is that with 7, you basically had like the whole Sephiroth cloud thing was like, was very well done because there's always that idea that the two of them are, we always like it when the villain and the hero were friends.
Okay, so there's the Sephiroth type, which is Cypher. That's the guy you're fighting in the opening, but that's not the main villain. The main villain is the sorceress woman, whose name I can't remember. And she's the one in the trailer who has this big headdress.
Yeah, and Cypher was so... It was an uninspired look.
Well, they did a 90s Sephiroth. Or I don't know how to pronounce that. So, they did Linkin Park Sephiroth. And that's, so I agree. Because when you see that character and even that opening,
the trailer was fucking amazing for that game.
Yeah. But when you see Squall and Cypher fighting, the immediate thing you think of is, oh, this is Cloud and Sephiroth 2.0, but it's not as good.
But that gunblade, the gunblade is awesome.
The gunblade is awesome.
It's an awesome looking weapon. I wouldn't want to wield it. I'll tell you that.
Also, I don't know if they ever did summons. Did you play that thing I say? The video?
No, I didn't. So I didn't even see it. Hold on.
Oh yeah, play the Diablos thing, because in particular, you got to get past the opening. But the sound effect that you want is right about. Hold on, I'm going through it. It's probably it's at 40 seconds or so when you see him throw the ball and it crushes the things on the ground.
40 seconds.
Yeah, let's go to 37 just to make sure you hear it all.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Be quiet. It's so beautiful.
Oh, he throws the giant fucking.
Yeah, you hear that sound when it's crushing them as it's coming down. That sound is so fucking beautiful. I love it. I would make that my ringtone if it made any sense, but it's too short. I guess it could just keep playing over and over.
How they aren't dead after that thing through that.
Yeah, well, I mean that's all. But that's the other thing is I don't think they ever did summons like that again. Whereas those summons are a big. And don't get me wrong, there people get tired of them because they're a whole animation loop, and so it takes like 30 seconds at a time. But they're really good. Like they have Doom Train, Diablo. There's a bunch of really good ones, and they have good names. So it's one of those things where it's that all of it together. And it's more science fiction-y than fantasy.
is.
That's also
Yeah.
more my thing. So it's kind of geared more for me anyway. And then they went back to hard fantasy after that with 9 because people didn't like 8. So 8 did not. Even though I think it reviewed well, I don't think people liked it.
Which is the one where you've got the car full of friends and you're like driving around?
Oh, that's the new one. That's 11
I think
or
it's 11.
12.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's see. It's geez, no, it might be 14. Holy shit!
They made that many.
There's so many of these things. Yeah, because 13 has a female protagonist, so it can't be that. It's got to be 14 then.
Yeah, there you
Here's holy shit. No, wait. What's XIV? That's 14, right?
go. XIV.
It's 15. It's
I
XV.
think that, yeah.
What the
I think
fuck
it's
is
15.
XV? 15, right? Okay.
Well, V is 5.
So and X is 10, so it's 15. So Final Fantasy 15, 7 games later, is the one with the car.
Got it.
Which did remind me when I saw trailers and stuff of 8. I thought of 8 when I saw that game. I haven't played it. And now, of course, they've redone 7. And now they've alternate version 7. So,
what do you mean alternate versions?
well, the new one, Eris doesn't die. And so what you find out is, the timeline's been remixed. So 7, okay. So Final Fantasy 7 Remake came out. And at the end, you discover that there's it's like a multiverse thing where the game you're playing is not the 7 that everybody played before. That one still exists, but it's a different thing. And now they've come out with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, where it's now going in a different direction because now the branch has been established. So Rebirth is now the first game that is fully in the alternate timeline. Yeah.
Okay.
Continues,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Reimagines the plot, world, and cast of the original Final Fantasy VII.
None of that will compare to being a little kid playing Final Fantasy VII.
Well, and you know what? This is kind of, with Final Fantasy VII Remake, I actually compared it to, I don't think I ever talked about it on the show, but I actually see it as the Star Trek Abrams thing. It's the smartest thing they could have done.
Yeah.
Rather than
I see that,
ruin, because, people are like, you fucking ruined it, because, whiny gamers are like this.
We'll make it an alternate version.
Yeah, so that they said was,
and that's the thing,
and it's smart because they didn't tell anybody. You didn't know till you got to the end.
I'm fine with alternate versions. Make all the alternate versions you want.
agree.
But leave the original where it is.
I actually want to play 7 Remake now that I know it's not the same one, so it makes me want to play it. And I think that one is that's on PlayStation Plus, so you can actually play that. You won't because you don't have the time, but I will probably get to it.
Well, yeah. I don't have the time for that.
Right.
Not to get everything. Jesus, speaking of getting older, man, there's so much shit I want to get done in a day, and I just do not have the time to do all the reading, all the working out, all the research, all the writing, all the shit that I want to do, and not alienate my wife and my kids.
Sure. Sure.
There's just not enough time in a day. But actually, can
I ask you? You might know this as an author.
Go ahead.
Are website titles italicized? Do you know?
When you're writing about them in a paper.
Right. So I'm doing the show notes in the background as I always do, or I'll forget. So I just wrote out Final Fantasy VIII is the best because that's the name of the site. Do I italicize that?
I don't know because I used to titles used to be underlined when you did
but this isn't a citation. This is a.
That's the thing. When I did citations, you underline titles.
Are website titles italicized? I guess I'll just search for it.
Oh, you know what? Article titles are italicized, so I wonder if they are.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Here we go. Use of italics. Titles of books, reports, web pages. Right there. Yep.
There you go.
See? Thank you,
so
Web.
I don't really have much of a topic today, which is usually when I'm most dangerous. Right.
Well, we spent 10 minutes on Final Fantasy VIII, so we're already done. Good.
Well, I'm usually most dangerous. Yeah, and that is the thing. If you want to have me talk for the next 6 hours, don't give me a topic, and we'll just go. But I do have a minor topic, and it ties into this whole thing you're talking about, versions. So my kids and I watched Aquaman 2 the other day. And I wasn't impressed. Oh, but they
you reviewed it, so we know.
Yeah, but they loved it because it's a kids movie, and they were asking me about other movies in that universe. What?
I'm sorry. This is totally inside baseball. So I had titled the show Linkin Park Sephiroth.
Yeah.
I thought. So I typed it out, but honestly, I am listening when I'm typing. So, but I just have to make these notes or I'll forget. Like it's actually show titles are one of the worst things. I tend to forget funny things. But I've written LinkedIn Park Sephiroth because the words are so close.
I know.
So now that's the show title, LinkedIn Park Sephiroth. It's going to make no sense.
Just wait, we're not done with the show. There might be another title in there somewhere.
I don't know if you're going to beat LinkedIn Park Sephiroth.
Oh, you never know the shit that comes out of our mouths.
Whoa. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, this is the last interruption, I promise.
No, it's okay.
Click that, because I need to see how to spell Sephiroth. What is if you just look at that results page, if you look over to the right, do you see a Wikipedia link?
Italia, incoming.
What the fuck is Sephiroth is an Italian?
Oh, maybe that's the Italian wiki site.
Oh, God, this is degrading faster than usual. No, it's not. It's English, but for some reason...
Someone just stuck that in the corner?
That's fantastic.
Oh, no, because when you click on it, though, it completely goes away. It's not on the
but that's what I'm saying. So somehow...
It's just a weird glitch.
But why would... That's amazing that would get associated to an Italian anything. Sephiroth in no way makes me think of an Italian. But go ahead. Not any that I've ever met.
I'm just wondering if there's some kind of weird connection now that we don't know about.
Probably not.
Hold on.
Sephiroth.
I'm going out on a limb here. I'm looking something up. I'm looking up if he's Italian. Is there something in there?
I don't see anything. I mean, no words that I'm looking at have any Italian. No, there's nothing.
So either way, yeah, I was talking to my kids about Aquaman.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Would you
want
to follow this thread? We can.
I searched Sephiroth Italian.
Yeah, I did too.
No evidence, but I did find a Reddit question where somebody said, "Is this the Jewish
thing?
Sephiroth Jewish?"
Yes.
Where did that question come from?
They're saying that there's things allude to some kind of Jewish heritage.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Oh! Apparently in Smash Brothers, one of his moves is called the Italian barbecue. What the fuck is this? Wait a minute.
Hold on. Now we have to see what that looks like.
Oh my God! What
is it?
Somebody said.
Or Sephiroth?
If you click on that, is he Jewish thing? Yeah, here is Sephiroth gets an Italian barbecue. What the fuck is this?
The Italian barbecue.
It's a video. I want a barbecue. What the fuck? Oh, the internet. You know what? All the times the internet's shit. Then you get this kind of crap.
What the fuck?
I don't know.
They fucking killed Mario. That's what they did. Anyway,
I don't know watch that video. This is great.
Yeah, it's Cloud and Sephiroth saying, okay. "I want a barbecue." What the fuck is a barbecue?
All right, I'm sorry. Anyway, going back to Aquaman 2.
No, we can.
Oh my God, no, we can't.
Don't worry,
this will be the whole show.
This isn't much better. Don't worry. It doesn't go to. It's not going to go to a place you want to go, but we'll go in there anyway.
Okay.
So anyway, they asked me about the rest of that universe, right? About the Aquaman DC universe.
Oh, the previous DCEU or whatever.
Yeah. So Zack Snyder's universe. And I realized I don't really want to show it to them, but at the same time, I did show them. They have seen one of Nolan's Batmans, but Nolan's Batman is not really part of that universe because that's the Ben Affleck Batman. So my kids have asked me about it, and I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm gonna let them watch Man of Steel, and I give them. What's really funny is it's not often I do this, and this is such an awful dad thing. I had to give them a short lecture before we watched it about how this is not the Superman I grew up with. Christopher Reeve is my Superman that I grew up with.
Sure.
And that I disagree with this version of Clark Kent's father. Even though I do like things about this version of Clark Kent's father, the main idea, although we'll get into it because I have a reinterpretation that I didn't have before, which I don't mind it. So we watched Man of Steel again, and I just want to discuss it because my kids really enjoyed it. And I've realized that there are things about that movie that I like a lot, and there's things about that movie that I can't fucking stand still. But that there's things that don't bother me the way they used to. So Clark's dad basically not wanting him to reveal his powers thing, right? And the whole thing that he'd rather die in the tornado, right? That used to bug the shit out of me when I first watched that, right? And this time I was watching it and I was like, you know what? It's like, is there a version of this where this makes sense to me? And I'm like, yeah, if you basically pose it from the question that Clark's father was so afraid that if people found out what his son could do, that essentially his son would be, that, you know, either someone would try to take him away from him, or that essentially it would ruin Clark's life. If in reality he didn't want him to use his powers out of the simple act of trying to protect his life. It's the only interpretation I have that makes sense to me. Because otherwise, his dad does come off like, there's that whole question of, should I let those kids die? And his father's like, well, I don't know, you know. And it's like, no, it's not an I don't know. Come on. But that's the only interpretation that makes sense to me with this version, right? Beyond that, I just wanted to hit on the fact that I've said this before. All the stuff with Russell Crowe is fucking awesome. I would watch a whole movie about Russell Crowe in Dying Krypton. In fact, I really think I could have made Man of Steel into 3 movies. The first movie would have been The Fall of Krypton and end with Russell Crowe getting his son off the planet, right? I would totally have watched that. The second movie would have been, so you know at the beginning of Man of Steel, there's this whole sequence where Clark is like basically slowly finding his way north. And there's a whole thing in there about him essentially like falsifying his records and getting jobs near the site where he wants to be and slowly like working his way north. Where he's on like an Alaskan like fisherman ship at some point.
Yeah.
You know what? I found that to be more interesting to me than a lot of the rest of the movie. And I was like, you know, why can't I have a movie about that? About Superman, pre-Superman, just trying to get there. I would watch a whole movie about that. And it ends with him becoming Superman, right? And then the third movie is, of course, what they decide to do with Zod comes down and yada yada. But I actually, watching it again, the Russell Crowe stuff is still great. All the Kryptonian stuff is really interesting and neat looking. Henry Cavill, you know, I didn't like him at first as Superman, but I think it's because I like Henry Cavill so much. Going back now, I'm like, you know what? I'm cool with him being Superman. It's like, he does a perfectly good job. I was like, he just doesn't have a perfectly good movie. But I find that the fight sequences, it's going to sound weird, they just go on for fucking ever. They're just so, they just get boring. At some point or another, you're watching it, and I'm sure my kids are having a great time, but I'm watching it, I'm like, man, yes, I get it. You can't hurt each other. You've destroyed half the city. Like, and my wife is complaining about that as well, where you're like, yeah, especially the fight at the end with Zod, that just goes on and on. And I'm like, I understand the point of this fight is still there to make the argument that Superman had to kill Zod, right? I understand that that's the argument that was, but even Nolan said he wouldn't have killed him. You know, I wonder if to this day it's lazy writing, the fact they couldn't find another way for him to, because the easiest way would have had him get sucked into the what do they call it? The Phantom Zone, when they got all the other fuckers got sucked in. Also, and this is an awful thing this movie did, the waste of talent in this movie baffles me. Like, you've got some incredible, intense actors all through this movie, and you give them nothing to work with. Like, at least Michael Caine as Alfred in the Nolan Batman movies, you know, he had some, like, that whole speech about some people just want to watch the world burn in the Dark Knight. That is a fucking great line where he's talking about that guy in the woods that they couldn't who was robbing, like, he was robbing the supply lines, and then when they finally found him, they were like, he wasn't even using the money he was stealing, he just wanted to destroy everything. Like, Michael Caine gets some really good lines in that movie. Whereas in this movie, you've got, you've got Toby from West Wing, whose name I can't remember. What's the actor's name? Do you remember that?
Oh, Adam. No, something Schiff. Richard Schiff.
Richard. Yeah. So you got Toby from West Wing, who is wasted almost completely. At least he gets one heroic moment, but essentially, they have him there in like he's basically Data in Independence Day, right? Where they bring in Brent Spinner and he's there for like 2 minutes and then he gets killed by an alien, right? Toby is massively wasted. So is Lawrence Fishburne. So is the guy from Law and Order who's in this, whose name I can never remember, who's a really great actor. Like, I think he gets a little bit more than others, but like they have a lot of great actors in this movie, and they give them nothing to do. So because I feel like Nolan had a restraint on Snyder in this one because he was still like the executive producer. Snyder wasn't allowed to really go like all, like his action sequences can just kind of go way over the top, right? As in, what do you call it? What was the one he just did? Rebel Moon, right?
Yep.
His action sequences can be just pure visual art, right? I feel like a lot of that is missing in Man of Steel. Instead, you get just like constant Jesus Christ illusions, like all over the place, where like he's rising towards the sun, or he's reaching for the light, or he's literally got Jesus behind him in the stained glass. Yeah. I realized watching this movie again that there is still a lot about it that I like, but there's still so much about it that I dislike. And I think the first time I watched it, it didn't occur to me the massive waste of talent that it was just for the actors they have in there. So it's weird. It's a weird thing. I want to show my kids the Christopher Reeve Superman movies because I think they're really great, but I think I'm going to have the classic Star Wars problem, which is, why do these movies look like shit? They don't look like shit.
No.
But that's the problem you have with kids. Kids watch the new Star Wars shit that's coming out, then they watch the original Star Wars movies, and I'm sorry, when you compare them to a child, right, who is a child, they sit there and go, well, these ones look really shitty. I like these new ones. Because that's kind of that thing. It's the whole aversion to older movies. I fear that I'm going to show them the old Christopher Reeve Superman movies, and they're going to be like,
no, I don't think that's going to be your problem. I think the problem, because honestly, if you watch the remastered ones, they look new. I mean, obviously, you can tell the hairstyles. That is a giveaway, yes, and the fact that there's no cell phones and stuff like that. But the old Star Wars ones, part of the problem with those is it's special effects heavy, and some of the special effects age better than others.
Although the models, I will say this though, the models age very well for me.
They do, but like the lightsabers don't look great.
I know.
There's lots of stuff. I understand why. Look, I still love the original trilogy, but it has its shoddy edges because especially the first one was shot with like no money.
I still think that Yoda the Muppet is better than CG Yoda.
Oh no! Look, I was going to say there are other things that will beat any modern movie without even thinking. You're never going to talk me out of this because it's just, I've watched it so many times and I know it's factually true. There is no space battle better than Return of the Jedi, period. There isn't. There's just not. You can't beat it. It's unbeatable. It's never going to be beaten because
the whole end sequence.
Yeah, the Death Star fight.
Yeah.
There is a supercut of that where they cut out all the Ewok stuff, and it is the best movie you'll ever watch. Is that 14-minute long segment where they do the whole run on the Death Star.
Run, the Death Star run.
Yeah, like I said, they cut out 99% of the Ewoks.
Didn't someone try to like make something like that recently? I can't remember.
Well, Abrams did some practical work with the new ones, but they also did a lot of non-practical work. So the problem is nobody has attempted, as far as I know, to stage something like that again the way it was done. Mostly because it would be seen as too expensive now. And I understand that, but that's why it doesn't work. Because this is the thing. And it's funny because when you describe it, it doesn't make sense. But when you see it, it does. Part of the problem with CGI is there is no weight to it. So
No,
everything
it's floaty. It's very floaty. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the idea is, well, that's good because, and don't get me wrong, this part is factually true. In space, there is no inertia. Yeah. So ships would not be banking. They would not be, doing long curves.
No. In fact, I often hear that from my father-in-law.
And it's true. That's
he's
true.
He's like, yeah, shit wouldn't turn like that in space.
It's the same way that there would be no phasers like in Star Trek. You wouldn't have those beams. That's not how lasers work. Laser weapons would not work that way. So yes, that's all true, but it's also boring and it's not fun to look at.
Exactly. You have to find the middle ground. Yeah.
And the thing is,
theatrically entertaining versus scientifically accurate.
Yes. The easiest way to tell you the difference and why it feels and looks it feels better to your eyes is there is a shot early on in the Death Star 2 run where the Millennium Falcon is banking in between the big ships and it just kind of sweeps back and forth. You get this nice shot of the underside and it goes back, and it's not very quick because it's practical and they're moving a camera. Compare that to the first, what was the first movie called? What was the first
Force Awakens?
Okay, Force Awakens. There's a part where they're driving, and I say driving, they're flying the Millennium Falcon on the surface of the planet, and it's bouncing off stuff.
Yeah.
And it looks stupid because it's CG, and if they had done it practically, I would be curious if it would actually look better. And I think it would, because there would be some physicality to it.
This is the difference between Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings and the Rings of Power.
Yes, exactly.
Rings of Power is all CG. You feel it.
Right.
Whereas Lord of the Rings, when they did the Battle of Helm's Deep, when they blow the wall, they actually blew the wall on the model.
Right. Yeah.
And then they added a bunch of shit to it, but the weight of that explosion is still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got away from my point a bit, but the thing that's going to be difficult for your kids with the first Superman is not going to be how its age looks.
Yeah.
It's the fact that the villain is not
so
really
silly.
Great for kids because it's like a political argument.
Yeah.
It's, Lex Luthor sitting back and he's like, haha, I've got a plan to take over the real estate market. Ha ha ha. It's like, that's not fun. Not for kids.
Yeah, I know.
That part gets lost on children because they're used to superhero movies now. When that movie came out, there weren't a lot of people flying around. That's why the tagline of the movie is "You will believe a man can fly." That wasn't just honestly, because it's Superman; it's because of the effects.
Still think that Christopher Reeve's flying is probably one of the most impressive things because
they did it really well. Yes,
he had to contort his body to those ropes and make it look graceful and everything like that.
Yeah,
that's why when they did Superman Returns with Brandon Routh really wanted to mimic Christopher Reeve's flying.
Yes.
And I really appreciate that.
Oh no, I have a soft spot for that movie because the intent was really good. They just didn't execute it very well.
No, because they wanted it to be a Christopher Reeve movie, and they tried.
Right.
Yeah.
So your kids will struggle with the first one. I think they'll be partially bored. The second one, I think you'll have no problems because the second one has three great villains in it.
So here's the thing. That was part of my lecture. So when I was talking to my kids about the difference between Man of Steel and my Superman, I said, I don't appreciate Clark Kent's dad because I think in the original version, the original movie, his father drops dead of a heart attack. I said, and the message is supposed to be, Clark, you can't save everybody. Some things are beyond you, right? Some things just happen.
Yeah.
And I said also, as like the Zod in the Christopher Reeve Superman movies and the Zod in the Man of Steel are two completely different creatures. And this is important because my son's name is Zod, and I don't want him to think that I named him after a psychopath maniac. Well, a psychopath, but a smooth one. Terrence Stamp as General Zod is fantastic. He is menacing and clever and smooth, and he is always positive that he is the man in charge in the room. And that actor, like, he just eats up the screen when he's there, right? Yeah. Whereas in the new one, the new guy, I can't remember the name of the actor who plays him. He's just
Michael Shannon.
Michael. He's just so shouty and angry. Like there's a scene towards the end of Man of Steel where Zod has figured out, but we're basically Superman has wiped out the remaining Kryptonian people. So and it is literally just Zod and Superman. And there's this moment where Zod realizes that he has nothing left, that he was born and bred to protect Krypton, and there is nothing left of Krypton, right? Now, I know that Michael Shannon can act. I've seen him in other stuff, and he's very good. But in this role, he decided to just play it like psychotic warmonger.
Well, remember, people don't just decide to do something
Unless
Snyder said do whatever you want, and he did that.
He was told to play it psychotic.
That's what I'm saying, is you got to place the blame in the right place.
The yelliness, right? Whereas Terrence Stamp's Zod is so smooth and kind of like, he's the gentleman psychopath. He's sure he's in charge, and he has those very. Terrence Stamp in the original Superman movies has so many quotable lines, whereas there isn't a single quotable line to Michael Shannon's Man of Steel. Like his Zod is just so, unless you want to run around barking, I will kill them all. I will kill them. That's it. That's all and this is the whole wasted talent thing. Whereas, son of Jor-El, kneel before Zod. Or why do you tell me these things when you know
I will kill you for it?
You know I will kill you for it.
Why do you say these things to me when you know I will kill you for it?
And it's like, is the problem that Terrence Stamp is a better actor than Michael Shannon? I don't know. Michael Shannon can act really well when he's given a proper role, right? And maybe it's just that they allowed Terrence Stamp to do more with it. Or they gave him different guidance. But that was one of my disclaimers to my kids. I was like, the original Zod is way better than this Zod. I was like, even though I like the idea that Zod's got his own super suit and his own symbol, Terrence Stamp is a better Zod. I'm just, if we want to make that argument of, better versions, it's better than Michael Shannon. It just is.
No argument. But that's where I think you're going to struggle. Is the first one, I think they're going to get bored in the middle.
Whereas, I will tell you this: the woman that they have playing his second in command, what is his name? I can't remember. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't remember her name.
She is. I honestly, Man of Steel, I think she's just as good as the one.
No, she is. No, I agree. That's why I feel bad, because I don't know what her. Hold on, I'm going to look it up, because it's not fair not to. Because she is
Zariel.
Great.
It's not Zariel.
No, it's not Zariel. It's God. Hold on. Here it is. She is. Oh God, how do you supposed to pronounce this? Farul. Oh God, I can't pronounce either of her names, her real name or the character's name. The actress's name is Anje Trau.
All right, so his sub-commander,
Farul. I don't know how that's supposed to be pronounced.
So we're gonna.
That sounds like a Lord of the Rings name. Farul.
Zod's female sub-commander in Man of Steel is very good. I did like her.
She's
I think
excellent.
She does a good job.
No, I agree. She was the best thing in that movie, without a doubt.
She is as good as the woman in the Christopher Reeve Superman.
Actually, I'm sorry, that's not fair. Henry Cavill and that woman are the best things in Man of Steel.
Henry Cavill is very good, yeah.
Henry Cavill is screwed by a bad movie that he is a great Superman.
I know, and the problem now is my kids have like, oh, can we watch the sequel? And I'm like, oh God, I haven't watched Superman v Batman, and I don't. I'm like.
Oh, you should, because it's such a piece of shit.
I avoided that movie. There's certain movies I made a hard stop on. I have never watched that movie. You know what? I haven't watched Justice League. I've watched clips of Justice League, and I read all about Justice League, but I've never sat down and actually watched Justice League. And the problem is, I've put myself on train tracks of doom.
Wait. Okay.
Yeah.
Just so you're aware, if you watch the Snyder cut of Justice League, if they want you to, and just stop before the end sequence starts, and it's fine. It's really not bad. It's really not. I reviewed it, remember? And I said, yeah, this is okay.
Yeah, I know, but it's still a dismal movie. Like,
I mean, it is, but it's it has moments that are worth watching it for once.
Well, honestly, they just want to watch Aquaman. They like Aquaman.
Well, he's not watching Justice League. I mean, he's in it, but he's not.
Yeah. Or as my daughter refers to him, Beef of the Sea.
Yeah, sure, Beefcake of the Sea, sure.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, Henry Cavill really.
But you know what, Cyborg? Cyborg, they'd have a lot of fun with it. That character is really neat. He's good. That guy's
Henry
good.
Cavill put Jason Momoa to shame.
Well,
like, Henry Cavill shows up in this movie, and you're just like, Jesus Christ, man, he's like fucking like,
well,
he's
that's
ripped, you know.
That's not only that, but he's a better actor. With that one,
He
we can
is.
say
Oh.
pretty easily.
Hands down.
So that's what I'm saying is the biggest thing to be upset about Snyder's mishandling is they had a great person in the role for Superman, and he
doesn't show up till like the last 5 minutes, right?
For which?
He doesn't show up till the very end.
Are you talking about Justice League?
Of Justice League, yeah.
No, it's not the very end. I'd say because the longer cut, don't forget it. So he shows up, they resurrect him, last half hour, 40 minutes or so.
Okay.
That ending goes on for a while. So
yeah, but I don't want to watch Batman v Superman.
No, that's terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I couldn't make it through the credits, so I don't know how terrible it is after that, but I couldn't make it through the credits. Once Batman started flying, I was like, I'm out. Thanks.
Yeah. So it might be one of those things. Like,
actually, I should say I have seen the final fight with Doomsday, and that also made me have no desire to watch it because they fought a gloomy glob monster.
This is a statement of control that I have an issue with, right? On one hand, I don't want to keep my kids from watching a movie that they want to watch, right?
Yeah.
But I don't want them to see it on the grounds that it's a piece of shit, and they don't know any better to know it's a piece of shit. So I'm kind of sitting there going, well, do I stop you, or do I embrace the spirit of freedom and let you watch the bad movie?
No, all right. If you want my recommendation on this,
yeah, sure.
I'm a non-parent, so there is some of that, but I would not show them Reeve until you've burned through all the Snyder stuff.
Really? Okay.
No, because you want to go from. It's always better to elevate than to denigrate if you're going to do it that way. So what you want to do is let them think that this is Superman, right? And then let them see why Reeve in every way is better. And that quality, I believe your children will respond to Reeve as Superman, even if they don't necessarily love the first movie. They're going to understand how good he is. His ability to radiate the pureness of Superman, of that character, and why people love that character, as boring as he can be in many of his stories. He did that so well that no one's going to ever touch it, period. Right? So show them the other one first. Even and again, we're not saying this is Cavill's fault. This is the movie's problem. This is Snyder's problem. This is his obsession with showing dreary, gloomy, miserable gods. That's his fetish, in the same way that Quentin Tarantino can't resist shooting the foot.
Gloomy gods. I like that. Okay.
Yeah, that's his thing. He wants to show corrupted deities for some reason. That's his hang-up. It's whatever. So show them that first so that they see that. Right? And they'll have the fun with Aquaman. They'll have the fun with the Flash. The Flash is zany. They'll probably enjoy that character. He's fine. Cyborg's neat looking, and the character is actually well done in the longer cut. They give him more time. There's actually a character there. All that stuff's fine.
And then go to Doom Patrol, right? Go straight from Justice League to Doom Patrol.
Well, that shows you. That shows how humor can be done well.
Act like that's where Cyborg ended up, right?
Sure, why not? But then show them the original 2 Superman films.
Yeah.
And I think that they'll probably, if I had to guess, they'll have been more entertained by the Snyder films, but they will like Reeve better as Superman. And they will like Zod in the second movie better than the Snyder Zod. They will like that second movie, I think, more than Man of Steel.
Yeah, we'll
see.
You know,
and this is the other thing. This is not actually. This is an interesting question, though. So maybe I'm completely wrong here, because maybe they will respond more to the effects than they will to the performances, because the thing that makes Superman 2 so exceptional when you watch it now, if you can appreciate these differences, and some people won't, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong. I'm just saying that I look at it, and the thing that sticks out to me is, as you said, Michael Shannon is doing a shouty, weird, almost juvenile thing in Man of Steel. And that is, the problem is it's compounded by the fact that it just becomes people throwing themselves through buildings and murdering millions of people, or killing, not murdering necessarily, but just the destruction just is it's Tom and Jerry time. It becomes desensitized. Whereas in Superman 2, the original one, there are no special effects like that. So they have to save it for like the part where they pick up the bus and he yells "the people," and the way he says it.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
that's
and
Superman. That's Superman right
yeah,
there.
and that's the thing is in Superman, we talked about this when Man of Steel came out, was the idea that he's not protecting anybody. Like, he's fighting for them, but he's not necessarily protecting them. Like, he does it early on in the fight in the small town where he's trying to tell people to get inside and he's trying to protect the soldiers. But in the city fight, I mean, they're bringing buildings down left and right. You know,
and also, and this may be something your kids miss at this age, but may appreciate later. I don't know. The other thing that's great about Superman 2, because again, Superman 1, I do think they're going to struggle with Superman 1. I think they'll respond to Reeve because he's so good, and of course, the Lois. Oh, what's the woman's name?
Margot Kidder. Margot Kidder.
No, Margot. Yes, it is. Sorry, Margot Kidder. Yeah. Right. Is that Margot Kidder or is Margot Kidder Indiana Jones? I mixed the two of them up constantly.
Hold on. No, Margot Kidder is
sorry, I always mix them up because they are similar looking. And Margot Kidder is also very good. So that too. But Superman 1 is I think, like I said, because it's a real estate movie. It's just, that's what it is.
I know.
So it's going to be tough. But, you know, the effects hold up. He's great. All that will carry them through. They may not love it, but I don't think they're going to be like, we don't like this. They'll just be like, oh, it was okay. I think that's one. And then two, the other thing, and this may go over their heads now, maybe it won't. I don't know. This would be an interesting barometer for you. Is that Superman gives up all of his powers to be with someone he loves. Period. He's like, fuck it. I don't care anymore. This is the person, and I'm going to be with that person. And then realizes that there's a responsibility that supersedes that. It's a really complex kind of investigation of, well, what matters, what's important, what are you going to give up, what the repercussions. There's a lot of stuff in there. And there's that whole thing where, you know, the guy beats him up in the restaurant and then he comes back and kicks the shit out of him. So it's like, there's things that kids honestly will respond to with that.
And that's the thing in Man of Steel, when that guy basically like picks someone in the bar, and then when the guy comes out, his truck is like completely dismantled on the pole. Yeah. That is alludes back to the original Superman movies.
Right.
You know?
But that's what I mean. So I think they'll like 2 a lot. Because
we'll
and again, it'll be interesting because
we'll see.
There's less
I will
effects
go with what you said. I will let them see Zack Snyder's gritty gods, and then I will go back and see if they can.
Also, it would be tonally weird to drop that in the middle of this. You might as well just get through all of it, and it'll be easier on you too because you know you're getting through eating liver and onions to get to the ice cream, the gelato at the end, right? So you're gonna bear through all this garbage. Because you know there's a great dessert coming, which is Superman 1 and 2, and you'll be able to bask in that.
See.
Whereas if you dip into that and then have to go back to Snyder, you're going to be like, oh God, what have I done to myself? It's worse.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's boy.
But, you know, it's sad because, like I said, there are things that are good about... There are elements of the DC universe that I liked. And Henry Cavill was great as Superman.
He was.
And, you know, the idea of him doing a movie with The Rock actually would have been quite amusing to me.
Oh, sure. I don't know what that would have been like. It would have been interesting.
But that universe was just so flawed by the end there. They just couldn't do it. You know? And I don't know if Nolan was a good fit either. As much as I like Nolan, because Nolan was supposed to be like the man in charge, and he was like, I don't really want to be, which is why Zack Snyder came in. But I don't think Nolan would have been good at it either.
Well, I think that's part of the reason why he didn't want to do it, because he doesn't want to do Superman. He doesn't want to do gods. He wants to do, you know, the reality stuff or whatever.
No,
that's
in
what
fact,
he wanted.
I wonder if a lot of there's a tonal shift in Man of Steel. I noticed this a lot. So whenever they do the scenes where Clark is young. Clark is still living at home with his parents, right? It feels like a different movie. Have you noticed that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
All the shit with Kevin Costner and growing up and all the it feels like a different movie. It doesn't feel like a Zack Snyder movie.
I agree.
And then you cut forward and you know, you're back into the mix. But like, I do wonder sometimes if Nolan had more involved with like some secondary elements of the movie. You know, because I mean, Nolan's big thing is fatherhood. That's always been his.
And that's why it wouldn't surprise me if that's true.
Yeah.
And that's probably the stuff he gravitated towards and was less concerned about having people punch each other through buildings.
Yeah, which goes on forever. Yeah,
which goes on forever. So
Forever,
yeah. Don't put Reeve in the middle of that, man. That's like getting a tooth pulled, having a pedicure, and then having another tooth pulled. Why would you do that?
Wait till the end. Okay, we'll see.
Yeah, you'll feel better.
Yeah,
you'll feel better.
We'll see how they handle it, or if they just get there and go, "This is boring."
No, like I said, I expect their response to the first one will be, "Yeah, it was okay. We liked him, but it was a little slow." And I think the second one, especially because there's 3 of them and each of them is very different. And so there's always something interesting with Zod. What are the names of I can't remember anybody's name. Superman 2. What is the other guy has like a really dumb name. It's like Gore or something like that.
Yeah.
Here it is. It is Non. That's the guy. Ursa. Ursa's really good.
Oh, that's her name in the original one.
Yes,
okay.
and see, that's the thing is both of the in that case, in that particular instance, the second in command or the right hand of whatever.
Yeah.
Both of those women equally excellent. Equally excellent. Man of Steel and Superman 2. I would take either of those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those two, if they ever were in a movie together, holy shit! Like if it had been Ursa's and Farah Ul was her daughter, and they came to Earth and started stomping shit, I'd watch that movie. I don't care who makes it. I'd watch that now. So that is one weird specific instance where both movies have on par people. So,
Terrence Stamp, man, he's fucking awesome.
He's great. He's great. I've never read anything about that, so I don't know whether it. I feel like that performance was partially from him, meaning he said, "Can I do this like this? Let me try it like this," and they were like, "Oh yeah, do that." Because it's so understated. Like it's such a... Except the few parts where he gets very angry, which are great because that's the nice contrast. Most of the time
he plays it like an angry crime boss. He played it straight. Yes. He didn't play it like a silly supervillain. He played
That's the thing.
Like
he's on a simmer until certain things happen and then he boils over, and that's what makes it really work. That whole movie is so great, but I love the part where he's like, "No, you're not the president. No president would fucking roll over this quickly." And the guy's like, "Yeah, you're right. I'm the president." That's that part. They show his intelligence. Like they just rounded him all the way around where it's like his power is there. His intelligence is there. He's so immediately a serious fucking threat. And then you've got 2 more with him. And one of them is clearly just the, juggernaut that can run around knocking buildings down. And the other one, they literally give her a viper that she fries after it bites her. It's like, okay, the symbolism is not always subtle, but I enjoy it. It's like, what if Eve fucking fried the devil with death ray vision, So.
Yeah, and going back, like in Man of Steel, I really like the way that he has to discover his powers. That when Zod encounters the atmosphere, it makes him go through the same process that Superman had to, where he's got to he's suddenly gaining all these abilities, and he's struggling with his X-ray vision and focusing and all the noise. It's like there's a lot of really smart shit in this movie. I just wish that they were able to pull it together.
There was,
but you know what? It made a lot of money when it came out, so good for them.
That you are correct in that one of the things that is the most aggravating about Man of Steel is you can see the parts that could have made a fantastic modern version of this film. And there are parts where it works really well. There are parts that the peaks and valleys are so disparate and so severely whiplashing that it ruins the whole thing. And then you get to the end, and there is nothing redeeming about the end. Nothing. There is no good in that ending where it's just carnage on a mass scale and, snapping. It's all bad. At that point, any goodwill has been completely flushed.
Pretty much.
And so that's the thing is a good ending can save a mediocre or uneven film.
Yeah, and they could have saved themselves. All they had to do is have him go into the Phantom Zone with everybody else. That's it.
There were a lot of ways there's a lot of ways that ending could have been better. So many ways. They chose not to do it. What are you going to do? So, yeah. But that's why I would say save Reeve for later, because otherwise, oh boy.
Save Reeve for later.
If only for yourself, save Reeve for later.
Well, there's lots of other movies. There's lots of other movies to watch. But yes, I was curious.
No, and I think, I'm serious. I think you're not going to have a better time with Batman 5 Superman. That's, just be ready for suck there. There's no way around that.
Another thing is, I haven't seen it. I know about it, and I haven't seen it, and I don't want to watch it. But I'm in a situation now where I'm being asked.
Well, and here, so very similar to the Reeve thing, though. Actually, this works out. Very similar to that. Watching Batman 5 Superman will make Justice League better.
Oh, yeah.
It will.
I guess you're right, yeah.
That's the nadir of the series, without a doubt. Batman 5 Superman is the low of the low points. It is... Again, I've never watched it all the way through, but I've seen clips of it, and it is so bafflingly awful. Even the clips I've seen. And again, the end fight is one of them. So again, they tanked the movie. I'm sure there are bright spots in the movie. I'm sure there are. I liked Affleck in Justice League. I don't think he would have been a bad. There again, there's another Snyder kind of hallmark. Take people who could have been good in these roles and do nothing with them, or do nothing good with them, I guess. So when Affleck is in Justice League, I like him. I like his older, kind of weary Batman who realizes he can't do it forever.
I was happy when they were going to do a Batman movie with him that he directed.
I agree. I would have watched that.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Staying on the grounds of Affleck for a moment. So I don't normally like... I feel bad about this. I find Kevin Smith to be obnoxious these days.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I feel bad about that because I grew up watching Kevin Smith movies and I still like those movies. And I like Kevin Smith in theory.
Oh, okay. Look, number one, don't feel bad about it. Some people grow into being assholes and some people grow out of it. It happens.
And I find him obnoxious. I think his whole
he's smoking his own supply too much. It's as simple as that.
I haven't enjoyed a lot of his more recent movies. The last Clerks movie he did. I think Clerks 2 is fucking awesome. I stand by that movie. I thought it was going to be a mess, and it was amazing. And Clerks 3, I'm so put out by what he did to Dante and the storyline of that movie. It really kind of oddly burns me. But yes, I find Kevin Smith kind of obnoxious these days. But I did catch an interesting thing where he was talking about the rights for Dogma. I don't know if you've seen this at all. So
yeah, this is a huge kind of bummer because I would love an HD version. We're just not going to get it.
Exactly. So in one of Kevin Smith's various talks, he was talking about all these projects that he has coming out and all these projects that he really loves and all his and people were asking him if he'd ever go back to certain movies, and someone said, would you ever go back to Dogma? And he said, what, I'd love to, but the problem is a very bad man owns that movie. So apparently,
not only owns it, will not let him buy it.
Yeah, so Harvey Weinstein apparently owns Dogma personally.
Miramax. Yes.
No, Harvey Weinstein.
No, but personally. I mean via came out through Miramax, so he got it.
No. But he owns it specifically because Miramax was owned by Disney, and Disney was like, "Get this movie off our list."
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's because people have said, "Well, why is Miramax not selling it?" It's like, no. Miramax isn't selling it.
It's Harvey Weinstein, right?
Yeah.
It is one of the last movies he fully owns, right?
Yep.
And I guess Kevin Smith tried to buy it back from him. He made kind of a lowball offer. Then he made a higher offer, and I guess he got Matt Damon and Ben Affleck to join in on a big deal to try and buy it. And Weinstein still wouldn't sell it.
Maybe after he's dead.
And well, that's what he said. Kevin Smith was like, well, you know what? At some point, his lawyer fees will become high enough that he'll either need the money or he'll pass away, and I'll buy it from his, from whoever, gets the movie in the will, right?
Yeah, somebody.
But it is an example of I would be fascinated what Kevin Smith would do with another Dogma movie, even though Alan Rickman's gone, which is a tragedy. But it would be interesting to see what he would do with that material. but this is the reality stepping in and going, well, he can't make another one of those because, a bad man owns the rights. So, yeah.
Honestly, I wouldn't trust him with a sequel. I wouldn't be interested at all.
Really?
No.
Interesting. Why?
Well, the same reason as everything else. I think at this point
he
had his perspective has shifted so radically in terms of you could see this starting when he made I don't remember which movie, but basically when it got critically assaulted. And he was like, critics, what do they know? Blah, blah, blah. My fans watch my movies, and that's all I care about. Well, once you get to that point, don't get me wrong. That's great for his fans. I think there are people who legitimately love everything he does, soak up everything he says.
I liked it when he was doing kind of poignant comedies,
yeah, well, that's what I think he doesn't.
But he started getting sillier and sillier, and as he got sillier and sillier, and then when he started trying to branch out, his branching out projects have been very hit or miss. Some of them are great. Yeah. Some of them you're kind of like, because what's the one with John Goodman? Red State, right?
Red State, yes, the Red State one.
Red State is a very good movie. I enjoy that, right?
Yeah.
But then didn't he do Tusk?
He did Tusk. He did Yoga Hosers. He did Cop Out.
Oh,
there's lots of. Yeah.
Okay, to be fair, everything I've heard about Cop Out, I don't think there was any chance of that movie working.
No, well, here's what it is, right?
Yeah.
I have, just so that it doesn't sound like I just hate the guy, because that's not true.
No, I love his early work. I've watched half of his movies.
Oh no, even new stuff. I've heard him talk about things. I've seen videos of him in the last 3-4 years where he's talking about things that he hasn't done, and he's very funny. He says things I totally agree with. I mean, his perspective on a lot of things that you and I are interested in aligns with us. And he has very intelligent things, and he is a passionate supporter of many things.
So why do I find him obnoxious these days?
Well, okay. But anytime it's his own work, and whenever he doesn't have something besides himself to talk about, then it becomes, oh, yeah, okay. Got it. This is not a person I need to listen to. That's the thing is he has this, I don't know, I guess a very specific type of narcissism where he doesn't have to make everything in the world about him, but if it has any connection to him, he's going to be a headache to listen to. I guess that's the only way I can put it. Because, I'm trying to remember, he was talking about some 80s movie that we both love, and it was probably some superhero movie or something, like a science fiction movie. And I mean, everything he said, it was great. It was great to listen to him talk. It was like 12 minutes long. I think it was, it was for Vanity or GQ or I don't know, whoever interviewed him. And it was just him sitting there talking about, and he was just raving about what the director did and the people in it, how great. And it was great, right? Because it wasn't anything about him. And that's, I think, what I mean about his narcissism is really weird because, and you could correct me if I'm wrong here, but true narcissists, they try to make everything about them, don't they? They try to bring it all into themselves somehow.
Yes. Yes.
And he doesn't really, he does not do that. He's really
I
not that type.
I do not believe that he is a narcissist, but he does have an ego about his own stuff.
Well, and that's what I'm saying about what I'm saying. What I'm describing doesn't probably exist actually in any DM,
honestly, it's almost like a low-key nerd ego. Like in the realm of nerddom, he knows he's a god. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay, yes. I think that's what it is. He has this very specific area where he feels like if it's an area that others have ascribed him any credibility in whatsoever, then he has total dominion. And it makes him miserable to listen to. But if it's something where he's talking about somebody else, or he has no direct connection, he's never made a movie about it, he's never incorporated into one of his movies. Even if he's done that, he hasn't. But like if he's talking about Star Wars, which I've heard him talk about all the Star Wars movies, even the miserable ones, his defense of even the new ones, I don't mind because it comes from a place of I just want to love this stuff because I love this stuff. And it's like I can let a lot of that go. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I suppose. I have found him to be.
But on his podcasts, I've tried to listen to them, and a lot of them are unlistenable. Like when him and Jason Mewes are together, oh my God, it's the worst fucking thing in the world. Because Jesus, I mean, it is depressingly awful. because they just go in like circles about, hey, remember when we did this, man? Oh yeah, that was totally great. And then I shit in your neck and it was so funny and you didn't realize the shit was wrong with your nose. Yeah, man, I was so stoned. It's like, okay, this is going nowhere, guys. You know? Seriously. But like Fat Man on the Batman or whatever, that other one where he's talking to another person about pop culture stuff, there's a lot of that's really good. Where they're talking about interesting aspects of comics or movies that you don't know about and how much they appreciate. That's great. When he's celebrating others, he's very entertaining. Very entertaining. When he starts getting back to his realm and his movies and all that, it just starts to go off a cliff really fast. Real fast. So it's a very specific thing. That's why I say I don't dislike him. I can just only hear him in certain aspects.
Overall dislike him. And like I said, I do agree with a lot of his ideas, but I find his speaking engagements obnoxious. Whereas I used to find them amusing.
Well, I was going to say the early ones are a lot different than the modern ones. I listened to one that was maybe 6 or 7 years old, shortly after I had watched his first evening with Kevin Smith. And man, it's like it was two different people. Two different people. And it's very, very tough to... I could not really tell you how, but if you were to watch them back to back...
The veganism has changed him.
Maybe. I mean, listen... If I had a major health incident that scared the shit out of me, then I'd probably act very differently too.
He could just be older.
Well, that's what I mean about,
But
some people...
as far as being obnoxious, I mean, listen, people in the movie industry, like, there's a personality type that has staying power.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And maybe that's just what he's become to stay.
Yeah. And it's okay.
But I do think it's interesting that Harvey Weinstein will not let go.
Well, the biggest shame of that is that we don't have a really good edition, like a Criterion version, which I very much believe there would be.
No, and and there's no plans for it or anything. Yeah,
well, you can't do anything with it. If nobody has the rights, you can't do anything. Now, okay, what I should say is I am positive. I would bet serious money that in the background, Kevin Smith has worked out that, hey, if these rights become available, here's the things, and he's got people on board to do them. Commentaries, remasterings, like all kinds of. I'm sure that when those rights go back to him, if he's alive or whoever, he's probably going to he'd probably have his daughter like lined up ready to do this as well. If I was him, and that was a very personal work for him. I've heard him talk about it, and again, that stuff's great.
There's a lot of his father in that movie. Is what
and that's one of those rare exceptions. When he talks about Dogma, you can tell it's different. There's a difference there. You can hear it. You can see it, and that's such an important film to him. And it is probably his most critically, and it is viewed as his best film by almost everybody, period. And so that movie, that is his legacy film. And so I'm sure that he has a complete plan written down physically, printed out somewhere in a binder. When these rights become available, here's what you want to have happen. And if these people are alive, they've already agreed to it, they will do it. And outside of Linda Fiorentino, if I'm pronouncing her last name right, who had a miserable time with him. But my suspicion would be that I think they've kind of patched things up after the fact. But again, she would probably be on board even with that.
Has she been in anything since Men in Black?
Oh, yeah, she's been in stuff, yeah. Yeah, she's been in things.
Anywhere.
Oh, no, she's in lots of stuff. I don't know if it's all been high profile, but let's see. Oh, you know what? Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Holy shit. God, I guess not. I thought I'd seen her in other stuff. Maybe I'm mixing her up with... Yeah, I guess I am. Because, man, you're not kidding. She hasn't been in much since then. The video on her IMDb page is, in fact, of Rosario Dawson. What the fuck is this? Okay. Oh, by the way, we're on IMDb. I forgot. Somebody told me that.
What?
Our show is on IMDb. The only credited person is incorrect, but we're on IMDb. Yeah, go there and look us up. Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know who Richard Pierin is, who's the person who's associated with it. So apparently we must have talked about this Richard Pierin. I don't remember that name. It's not somebody I met. It's from 2013. 2013 episode. Hold on. Let's see.
Well, Ogre is listed as the Nightmare theme.
Well, good, because I want him to have that credit. That's great. I'd rather he have credit than I do, because his music's fucking awesome.
You talked
no.
Of Richard Perrin, a photojournalist?
I never talked to that person. I just searched on
Oh.
our site. It's not there.
Oh,
So I don't know
weird.
where that came from. I've talked to photographers, but not this person.
No idea. And there's
So, but
only
it-
one episode listed as well, by
No,
the
no,
way.
no. There's more. See where it says episodes? There's a number next to that. Look at it.
Hold on. Where's
See where it says
episodes?
episodes?
No.
That's correct.
Is that all the fives and all the
Yeah, it's
shows?
everything. It's everything.
Holy
Yeah,
shit.
That's correct. Yeah.
That's a lot of shows.
No shit. Yeah. We're approaching 4,000 shows. Yeah, no, I was going to say, no, there's more than one show.
That's
I
quite
mean,
funny.
and the dates and everything are right. So this is accurate. So this is actually a really good,
Something strange. Yeah.
yeah, the Bruce Lee Victory MP3. That's because I used that music in the show once. They listed it as an episode. That's not an episode. So yeah, let's put it this way. It's probably not actually 3,800. It's probably a little bit less than that, but it's going to be close because it's 5 episodes a week for how many years? So yeah, start multiplying it. That's a lot.
Well,
52 weeks times 5. Yeah, it's gonna
enough about my shit. What have you got for me?
Okay. So this was not really my plan. But okay. I'm going to explain this in the most vague way possible.
Okay.
Because I don't want anybody to get in trouble.
Uh-oh.
No. Well, look. I mean, not in trouble. Well, this is actually also a public service announcement because people should be aware of this. So I've talked about the Plex media server before. It's this kind of in your own network home server thing where you can take movies and rip them or acquire them by any means, whatever. And you can have them on a home network that has no need to be on the internet. It just works within your house. And so you have your own kind of media distribution thing. I love it. I've had it for a while. And one of the things you can do with it is you can share that library with anybody else. Right?
Yeah. Which
And
you've
until
done with me before.
Yeah. Until very recently, that nobody was really paying attention. But now Plex has started renting movies. So now they're starting to pay attention a little bit. Now, so I'm going to warn anybody because I appreciate when people share stuff with me, which they do. And this is how this happened. I appreciate it, but be careful because I don't want anybody getting in trouble. And now that they're paying attention, especially with a movie like this, which is brand new, just be careful because
Did you watch Dune 2?
No. I am not in any hurry. No.
Okay.
I watched a movie I'm interested in, which is a movie from 2023 called Poor Things. Have you heard of this movie?
Oh, wait a minute. I've heard of this movie.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So the concept for this movie is so fucking weird.
Let me tell you something.
Because it's a baby's brain in a full-grown woman, right?
Yes, I'm watching the trailer now because I've never actually seen the trailer. I read about it and that's why I was interested. Okay, yeah, this trailer is not going to give you any sense of what this movie actually is
because it's almost like a weird Frankenstein movie, right? On some level.
Okay.
Just get into it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this movie is it is borderline NC-17 sexual coming of age movie.
Yes.
There is so much nudity in this film. Holy shit. I was not prepared for that because the trailer obviously can't show you any of this. So I thought it was just going to be a bizarre, as you said, it is, even though there are no specific names that refer to Frankenstein, this is absolutely what if Frankenstein's monster made his own creation. Because Willem Dafoe have you seen Willem Dafoe's visage?
He looks like he's all put together.
Yeah, and he's talking about his father doing experiments on him and doing all these things to him, which are horrific. And so the only way that this makes any sense is that I think this is based on a book. I'm pretty sure this is based on, is it a book? Or it's based on something. Yes, Poor Things, episodes from the early life of Archibald McCandless, MD, Scottish Public Health Officer, is a book, which is what this is based on. It's got really weird artwork too. If you look at it, that book it's got some really, I almost kind of want to read it to see, but essentially the easiest way to have a direct idea of what this is Frankenstein's monster is a surgeon in some type of steampunk Victorian London, because there's never a year, I don't think, ever said, and it is clearly not in reality. This is very Terry Gilliam-ish in terms of it is never set in a real world. It is set in a hyper-realized, I think I described it in my 5 as Gilliam's live-action interpretation of a Van Gogh painting. I think that's the best thing I could come up with for it because of the way everything is. And
Man,
so...
you know what's hilarious, too? When we were going to watch Man of Steel, do you want to know what my pick for the night was?
What's that?
Fucking Baron Munchausen.
Well,
I've been trying to get that movie into their mindscape for so long now. You're talking about Gillian, so But go ahead, yeah.
So the movie starts out, and we see Emma Stone on a bridge, and she jumps off a bridge. And then we immediately cut to black and white, and we see Emma Stone, same character, and she is very, very childlike. And she's living in this house with Willem Dafoe, who is a doctor whose name is Godwin, and she calls him God all the time, which is great. And so he's there, and and you see all these creatures in his house that are all these Frankenstein creatures. A goose on the head of a dog. The head of a goose on the body of a dog. A pit bull's head on the body of a duck. Stuff like that, all over the place. So again, this is a Frankenstein type of thing, or Frankenstein adjacent, whatever. And so then we see him, and he's a surgeon. He's in one of those kind of classic things, almost from remember Kenneth Branagh, they have the big gallery where everybody's watching them have autopsies and everything. He's one of those where he's teaching the class. And in fact, one of the characters refers to him as a monster. And, he says, it's hard to pay attention when you're, the lesson's being given by a monster. So there's all these references that are supposed to, at least to my mind, make you think of Frankenstein's monster very clearly, even the way he looks. And again, when he talks about his father's experimentation, it sounds just like it. So one of the students, though, is very, very fond of him, and he takes notice of him, and he says, hey, would you like to help me with an experiment I'm working on? And he's like, oh, of course, I'd love to help you, absolutely. And so he brings me to the house, and he says, this is Bella. She had a grave brain injury, and I managed to save her life, and I want to catalog her development because this will prove a technique that I think can help lots of people, or something along those lines. And of course, he doesn't really explain what's going on at first, but Max very quickly ascertains that there is something seriously wrong with her. And so he says, okay, what's going on here? And here is the initial explanation that Dafoe's character gives for Bella and her condition.
What did you do to her? Why are you hiding her? Tell me what all this means, or I'll go to the police.
I shall, for it is a happy tale. It is rare to get a body, albeit dead but so close to life. Rigor had not set in. The body had hardly cooled. No pulse, but some electric current, so I could have kept her alive.
But you didn't.
I knew nothing of the life she had abandoned, except she hated it so much that she had chosen not to be, and forever. What would she feel on being dragged from her carefully chosen blank eternity and forced to be put in one of our understaffed, poorly equipped madhouses, reformatories, or jails? For in this Christian nation, suicide is treated as lunacy, a crime. Who was I to decide her fate? But then there was also, on my part, a recognition. All my research had come to this moment. Fate had brought me a dead body and a live infant. It was obvious.
It was?
Take the infant's brain out and put it in the full-grown woman. Reanimate her and watch.
Jesus. She knows?
No.
Who was she?
No idea. But would you rather the world did not have Bella?
So that's the explanation that he gives to him, right? So it tells him exactly what happened.
So that is a fucked up way to start. Yeah,
it really is. But it's also a really good way of seeing Dafoe's character because he is both monstrous and also very reasonable and clearly does care about her. He's such a weird character because they play him and he's written very well in this line between doing things that are horrific and also doing them out of what, as far as you can tell, are actual good intentions, that he's not just being evil. He doesn't treat her or view her as just an experiment. He genuinely cares about her as his daughter. It becomes very clear as the movie goes on that he does love her and that he's basically created his daughter. So movie goes on and Max is observing her and she does all these things and her behavior. And so when he shows up, from what I've read at the beginning, this is at the age of 4 months and we're doing time jumps. And the way you see the time jumps are her speech gets better and better and better. So first she's barely getting words out. And then, some scenes go by. Now she's talking in kind of broken sentences. And then she's talking in full sentences. So it's a very effective way of kind of showing you that, Max has been there for a while and, that she is developing. And they make comment on it that, oh, yeah, she's moving ahead very well. And then there's a point where Godwin Defoe comes to Max and says, hey, it's pretty obvious from the fact of the way that the two of you are, that you're starting to fall in love with her. And I'm okay with that. Do you want to marry her? And Max says, well, yeah, if she wants to get married, I would love to marry her. And so he's like, okay, but one of the conditions of the marriage is that you have to stay here. You have to live in this house. You cannot leave because we see them go out a couple times when she demands they go out. And it's very clear that he is afraid of the public. Like there's a point where he sees some people coming. He's like, okay, we have to go. People are afraid of me. So again, there's all these Frankenstein's monsters things in here without it ever being directly that. But he's afraid that the public will harm them because of him. So he's like, no, we have to go. And she obviously doesn't like that. At one point he has to chloroform her because she wants to be outside. And this is what I mean about there's this monstrous stuff that kind of, but he explains to her, because at one point Max says, when he agrees that they can get married, he's like, really? I sort of assumed you were keeping her here as a sex slave. And he's like, what? He's like, no. Number one, my father removed my testicles, so I'm a eunuch. But also she's my daughter. And even if I had that desire, he says something about the amount of electricity that would be necessary for me to be able to get an erection would knock out all the power in London or something. It's some funny line, right? So he's like, oh, okay. And then there's a part where you figure, because he's got this contraption when he eats, and when Defoe burps, this large bubble comes out. And what he says is, oh yeah, my father was curious if a human being could eat without gastric juices, so he removed the ability for me to make them. Then he figured out, no, you need them, so I'm stuck with this. It's like, but he says it in these ways where it's like, oh, he was a scientist and I'm a scientist, so I understand why he did it. So abused people. Like you understand why he's like this, because
I got you. Okay.
Yeah, it's a really Defoe's character is fascinating because initially you do think he's a monster, and then the more the movie goes on, the more sympathetic he is, yet you never lose this idea that he's doing terrible things. And that this is, and in fact, Bella at the end, you'll hear a clip where she's like, I think I got it, where she's like, I want to hate you, but I also love you because I understand why you're doing the things you're doing. So they play him really, really well. So he says, okay, you can marry her, but I want you to sign this agreement that you can marry her, but you have to stay here. And Max is like, okay, that's fine. I don't mind that. That's okay. We'll have everything we need. And so he has to get a lawyer to draft the papers, and the lawyer is played by Mark Ruffalo, who shows up.
I was wondering when he was coming into this.
Oh, Ruffalo, man. I read that he was basically had said up to this movie that he almost wasn't going to do it. And then he kind of, in his mind, went, well, I'm getting older, and I'm not going to be able to play the Hulk in superhero movies forever. And I may not be able to even do this for much longer. So screw it. Why not just do things that are interesting? And if I burn my career down, who cares? And boy, could I see why he was worried about that, because this is not a mainstream flick by any stretch. So he shows up.
Yeah, but it's got a lot of Oscar buzz.
Oh man, Emma Stone, if she's this, I don't care about the Oscars whatsoever, but if she's not nominated, it is a crime. She is excellent in this, but we'll get back to that. So he shows up and he's like, this is a really weird agreement. This must be an exceptional woman. And Defoe's like, yeah, she is. And so he says, yeah, can I use your bathroom? And he starts sneaking around and he finds her in the room And he's like, oh, okay, you're very beautiful, and you seem a little bit on the simple side. So, why are you stuck here? And she says, well, he finds her masturbating. So right away, it's like, okay, this movie is because she figures that out early on. And then she's doing it at the dinner table, and they have to explain to her that you don't do that. You don't do that in public. And she's like, okay, fine, I'll just do it in my room. And she's doing it all the time. It is hilarious. You have to put...
she's going through puberty. Is essentially what's going on.
And so people are like, that's disgusting. She's a little girl. It's like, okay, man, then you shouldn't be watching this movie. You have to put that stuff aside.
What's the age, I wonder, she's at mentally at that point? Yeah.
Well, this is
and she's got a full grown. I mean, this. All right, so let's stop for a second.
Based on the time jumps, it makes sense that she's probably in her teenage years by now.
Let's talk about the brain body connection here, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is that part of what makes you what you are is what your body is doing, because your body sends signals to the brain, and there's a back and forth. We've talked about this before with cloning, where the whole idea is that the body is part of what makes the person, right? So if I took Joe's brain out and I dropped it into my body and I put my brain in his body, we wouldn't just be Joe and Lando. We'd be some kind of new hybrid, because the biology of my body would affect Joe's brain, and the biology of his body would affect my brain, right?
Or my name is Bob and I'm a god. When you turn into pure energy, things change.
Yeah, exactly. Like when if you're a brain and you no longer have a body, we don't even know what the fuck that does, because we've never been able to do it, right? But I suspect that a brain without a body doesn't work very well. And I wonder if it wouldn't be pretty psychotic, because your body defines a lot of things. Your body sends a lot of messages. There's a lot of signals you get from the neck down that designate decisions that you make. So the idea that you took a infant brain and put it into a full-grown woman's body would cause that, theoretically, would cause that brain to go into rapid change, because the signals it's getting are that it is not a child. Not to mention the fact that when a child is young, their body is still developing, so they're not getting the attack of hormones. So, for example, with pre-puberty, a man gets roughly, we'll call it like a shot's glass worth of testosterone, whereas when you hit puberty, suddenly you're getting like barrel loads of testosterone, just slamming your system, putting you into, rapid growth, and suddenly, you want to get involved with, whatever your partner of choice is. Suddenly you become very interested in sex, right? Try to think back to high school and how one day you stopped and you were like, you know what? Like for me, it's like, I dig girls quite a bit, and I don't even know why. Remember that moment where you were like, I dig her.
Yeah.
I don't even know what I want to do with her, but I want to do something, right?
Yeah.
So the idea of the fact that she has this young brain in this fully adult body, yeah, and if the moral ideas haven't been fully kind of hammered in there, then yeah, you're going to get massively inappropriate behavior. You're getting sort of like, to fall back on Freud, you're getting heavily id-based behavior, because there is no superego yet kind of calling the shots of what is right and what is wrong. So it makes a lot of sense.
Well,
it's
there's also...
up, but it makes a lot of sense.
There's also, at least to my mind, a lot of indication that she is very ahead of, like intelligence-wise, she is very smart and advancing very quickly. So I don't know whether that's supposed to be a commentary on nature versus nurture, because she's in the presence of, Defoe never seems to have a problem with anything. He's like, hey, whatever, this is the experiment. Let her develop how she develops. So it's everybody else who seems to have a problem with it, like the housemaid and then Max and that type of thing. But Defoe never really stops her from doing anything, which is what we're going to come right up to. Because
but that makes total sense, because he was horribly experimented on. So to some degree, he's letting her be free.
Yes. And so, like I said, she seems to be very smart and jumping in advancement very quickly. So all that factored in. That's why it's like, you have to just let that stuff go. So Mark Ruffalo finds her, as she calls it, working herself, because she's like, I apologize if my working yourself has disturbed your sensibilities when she meets him on the roof. And he is just immediately smitten with her because she is an oddity, and basically proposes running away to kind of gallivant around the world with him. And this is their conversation and the follow-up where she goes, and this will kind of what I was talking about, where Defoe's character doesn't really stop her if she pushes far enough. So the first part is her talking to Ruffalo about running away, and then her immediate kind of going to Defoe's character and saying, yeah, I'm going to go run around the world with this guy.
Do not care for polite society. It's fucking boring. Destroys one's soul.
God not believe in soul.
I think God's the actual author of the soul idea.
Godwin Baxter.
That burnt dog. What is that story? You're a prisoner, but I aim to free you. Something in you, some hungry being, hungry for experience, freedom, touch, to see the unknown and know it. So why am I here, you ask? I'm going to Lisbon on Friday. I'd like you to come.
Lisbon of Portugal.
That is the Lisbon I speak of.
God never allow it.
That's why I'm not asking him. I'm asking you.
Bella not safe with you, I think.
You are, absolutely not.
May I have a moment of value time, dear God?
Of course, Bella.
I wanted to tell you big news. Bella's dizzy with excite.
What is it?
Tonight, at midnight, I secretly run away with one Duncan Wedderburn.
What?
You will wish to stop me.
I shall stop you.
You hold Bella too tight. I must set forth into waters.
We can travel, you, me, and Max, whom I will remind you you are betrothed to.
I will marry Max as he seems right for that. But first, I shall adventure on Duncan Wedderburn, who I think has little of damage to me, but will be interesting as well.
I can't let you go.
Kiss me and set me forth. If you do not, Bella's insides shall turn rotten with hate.
Hate?
Hate.
So he agrees because he'd rather not have her turn on him. So she takes off with Mark Ruffalo, and they go to Lisbon, which is a very, very overly colored and weird, swirly, painterly sky. And like I said, it's not supposed to be real at all.
The visual vibe of it was somewhere between like Wes Anderson and Terry Gilliam.
Yeah, no, it is. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. It is exactly that. So they're in Lisbon, and they are constantly having sex, and that's fine. And Mark Ruffalo is talking about how he's going to ruin her for all other men because he's such a magnificent lover and such a wonderful person to be around. And at first, everything's going fine, and then Bella starts to show more signs of autonomy. And she doesn't really care about what you're supposed to say in front of people or not. She's speaking her mind, and Ruffalo starts to lose his cool, and his facade starts to break down, and he becomes more and more angry and more kind of, he never hits her. I kept expecting there to be a physical thing, but instead he just starts to break. He actually starts crying. He starts breaking down because he doesn't know what to do with this woman who he thought he would be shaping as this wild, free woman, but she is shaping herself. She is reacting.
He thought he would own her.
Yes, he thought she would be dazzled by his, worldliness or whatever, and she's not. She's not really impressed with him, and she kind of goes off and finds people, and she's having a good time. And so there's a part where, but there are also elements where she is learning that some of the stuff that he's saying is true. There's a part where they're eating some kind of dessert, and she has one. She's like, I want another. He's like, no, you just want one. If you eat more, you'll get sick. And she doesn't believe him. So she eats like 3 and then she throws up. And, she's not really used to drinking. So when she's with him, he says, well, that's enough. Stop. And then she has like 8 drinks and collapses in the corner and falls down drunk and goes and just disappears for a while and comes back, and he's very angry. But he's like hitting himself and harming himself. And like I said, he's starting to become frazzled. His hairdo's getting unkempt. Like they're showing him struggling with her autonomy. And then there's this really funny bit where he's at the bar, and he literally slams his head into the bar, And after she has, because he comes up and he's about to go down on her, and he sees that suddenly she has tattoos on her inner thighs. And he's like, what are these? And she says, oh, I ran into this guy, and he said he didn't know what part of my body would be the softest, so I figured let's try to figure it out. And we figured it out. It's the inside of my thighs. And one is softer than the other, so he tattooed so I'd know which one is which. And Mark Ruffalo just blows up, and he storms off, and she looks at him, and she's confused, and she comes down because she can't understand what's going on with him. And we get this beautiful little piece of dialogue, which is just magnificent.
You are troubled?
Did he lie with you?
No, we were against a wall.
Did you furious jump him?
No, he just fast-licked my clitoris. I had the heat that needed release, so at my request, it was. You too may tongue play me, so I'm not understanding this complicated feeling. Are you now crying? What a confusing person you are, Duncan Wedderburn.
And this is the back and forth with them, but he still thinks that he can somehow control it.
Does he love her, or is it just a thing where he wants to own her?
I do not at any point believe he had any genuine affection for her. Nothing in the movie suggests that. This is something where I think I honestly believe that his plan was to basically use her until he was bored and throw her away. That's always the way it comes off.
So there isn't a genuine affection.
I don't think so. No, I mean it doesn't make sense to me. What makes sense to me is he thought that this would be a fling.
So then why is he so upset, I guess is my question.
Because she's not doing what every other woman did. See, the way he talks is like this is not something new to him. Because, he talks about how he's a magnificent lover and many other women have been ruined after being with him. So I really do think it's one of these things where he just thinks he'll keep around until whatever.
She's destroying his self-machismo image that he has. Okay.
Yes. He has no control over her, and she doesn't care that he's upset. That's another thing, is you notice that he, gets upset about things, and when she doesn't seem to care, he gets even more upset. So, yeah, she's breaking a very fragile kind of constructed male-dominated illusion.
She's breaking his male ego.
Exactly. So he finally gets to a point and he's like, you know what? You're right. I didn't do you a favor. I didn't respect your adventurous spirit. And he says, here's a trunk. Get in it. And she does. She gets in the steamer trunk. And then the next thing is he opens it and they're on a ship. And she immediately says, oh, so you think that I don't know this is a prison? You think this is just a floating prison. You've decided that you don't want me to wander wherever I want, so you've brought me out on the water. And she basically spends like a day and a half in the bathtub or in the bathroom, and he's all angry and banging on the door, and finally he collapses, and so she goes and she starts wandering around. And
there's just as much trouble on a boat as there anywhere else.
Exactly. So again, he thinks, okay, now that she can't go anywhere, now she'll, do what I want her to. And nope, she's still exactly the same person she is. But now she meets two people on the ship, this old woman and her traveling companion. And their introduction is, again, the dialogue. All these scenes. This is another one I could clip the whole goddamn movie, but this is the introduction to, I don't remember the old woman's name or the companion, but they're kind of in the little middle segment of the movie, but this is her kind of meeting them. And you'll hear that Ruffalo shows up at the end of the conversation, and you will notice his tone immediately.
Hello, interesting older lady. I must touch your hair.
I also noticed your hair, just like silk on a translucent, glowing egg.
That is fancy words that excite me somehow.
I saw you with handsome over there. White teeth and a hard cock.
Duncan Wedderburn. His teeth are also hard. His penis is also white.
Good lay, I hope.
He is my only, but I find him to elicit exceptional sensations throughout my whole body that leave me yelping happily. I also wish to dash his body form cadaver into the sea. Is this man jumping on your body?
No, he's not. I haven't been bedded in 20 years.
What? That is terrible.
It doesn't concern me greatly. As years have passed, what's in between my ears is my big concern. What's in between my legs? Much less so.
A desperate rationalization, Martha.
Oh, this is Harry Astley. Don't take what he says too much too hard. He's a cynic.
Madam?
I am Bella Baxter. I do not know what this cynic is.
Bella. Ink.
Duncan Wedderburn. I have made friends, colleagues, comrades.
Harry Astley.
This is Martha. She is my new friend who has not been fucked in 20 years. Is that not astonishment? I hope you use your hand between your legs to keep yourself happy.
Good God, Bella, you cannot speak like this.
Polites of society.
Polite society will destroy you.
It will?
There's some truth in that.
We all agreed on that. As to your inquiry on my hand, occasionally, yes.
That is much reassuring news. We shall all dine together.
Well, actually.
We are all on a ship and cannot escape, and there is a world to enjoy, traverse, circumnavigate.
Or can she not have friends, Mr. Wedderburn?
Delighted.
Like I said, you can pick up right away, you know, for somebody who said polite society is boring, now suddenly polite society is not so boring. You can't talk like this. So you're getting all of this, but she's staying with him because he's a dynamite lane. She can't escape. So she's not miserable, but she has no illusions about what's going on. So as this is all happening,
she seems actually very quite sober about the whole thing.
Yeah, no, she's basically just ingesting all the experience around, good or bad. She's taking it all in. Meanwhile, back in London, it's very clear that Defoe's character is depressed because Bella's gone, and so Max, says, "Well, look, you knew she was going to be gone. She's traveling. She's getting the experience. This is what she wanted." And Defoe's like, "Yeah, I know, but let's create another one." And so they go and they find another body. And
well, that's kind of. But Max is the guy that wanted to marry her, right?
Yes, Max is the one who wanted to marry her.
Why would Max do that? That seems strange to me.
Well, later in the movie, there's actually a clip where you're going to hear him say, and this does make sense, that it's sort of almost a parental thing where he so reveres Godwin that he, decides to just go along with it. Because he says at the end, he says there's sort of a.
So it's not for him. He's not making another one for himself.
No.
He's just helping Godwin.
No. Godwin just wants to make another one and see if he can replicate what he's done, and so they create another one, who is developing much more slowly. So I don't know. I think the idea of that is because Bella is special, and that's what I mean about she's developing faster. Because the second woman, I don't even remember if they gave her a name, but she's not developing as quickly. And so, but that's what they're doing. Meanwhile, back in London, they've created the second one. And so now Bella is hanging out with the old woman and the cynic. And Mark Ruffalo's character is not happy about it. There's a point where she's reading on the deck and he comes up to her and he says, "Hey, let's go back to the room," meaning let's go back and have sex. And she's like, "No, I'm reading." And he takes her book and throws it over the side of the boat. And so then the old woman hands her another book and she starts reading it and he throws that over. And then she's basically like, "Well, I'll just sit here then." And he gets pissed and storms off. So, she's doing her little rebellion, and Mark Ruffalo is now he's just gambling and he's, miserable and doesn't even want to talk to her. And so then we see they stop off in Alexandria. And
oh, wow. Okay.
Right before that, she was talking to the cynic, Harry. That was his name, Harry. And Harry, because she's talking to him about making, the world, that there's bad people and good people, but you can make people better, because that's kind of, Godwin sort of did this thing where he was saying, well, there's ways to improve yourself, education, doing these things, and you can make yourself better. And so she's like, oh, people can be better. Everybody can be better. Because I think he says, "Why do you stay with Mark Ruffalo's character?" And she says, I'm pretty sure I can improve him. And he says, no. He's like, there just are terrible people in the world. There are terrible things in the world, and there is nothing that you can do to fix it. That is the state of things. To tell yourself otherwise is delusional. And so when they're in Alexandria, they're having this debate, and he says, "Okay, let me show you something." And they go and they look over the side of this grand restaurant they're in, and about, 100 feet under them, there's this pit with all of these poor, destitute people, including a bunch of dead babies that the mothers are like talking to, and they're clearly dead. And he's like, yeah. He's like, they have no money, they have no food, and the babies die first because they can handle it the least. And the mothers can't handle it. So they just wrap them up and they just carry them around. And Bella is devastated. It's very similar to, if you remember The Fifth Element, where Mila starts watching all the war footage.
She sees the video all about the history. Yeah, the history
That's exactly what I thought of. That's the same reaction where she sees this horrible stuff. And and so she immediately says, I have to help them. And she starts running. And he's like, no, if you go down there, they will rape you and kill you and take everything from you. And she's still trying to get away. And so she ends up biting his hand and like making him bleed, but he manages to drag her away. And so she goes back into the stateroom and she's sitting there and she's struggling and she can't figure out what the hell to do. And so she grabs all the money that Mark Ruffalo has won gambling, puts it in a box, and goes out of the ship. And she's about to leave, and the stewards are there, and they're like, "Ma'am, you can't go back on there. We're about to leave. We've lifted the gangway or whatever. We've shut the thing." And she's like, "Okay, then you have to take this money and you have to give this to the poor." And they're like, "Oh, okay, sure, we'll give the money to the poor." And of course, they're not going to. They're not going to. And so, and then shortly after that, Mark Ruffalo comes into the room and he's pissed. He's like, somebody's stolen our money. I don't know where our money is. I've called the captain. Somebody's going to pay for this. And she's like, no, nobody stole the money.
I gave it to the poor.
Yeah. And the ship steward's in the room, and she's like, no, you can go away. Nobody's stolen the money. I gave the money to the poor. And he's like, you what? And he starts flipping out. And immediately thereafter, the steward leaves, and then the captain comes back and says, do you have any money to pay to stay on the ship? And Mark Ruffalo's, no. And they're like, okay, we're kicking you off at the next port, which will be Paris. And so he's just livid. But again, I kept expecting he's going to hit her, like something. And it never happens. He just keeps breaking down, like he's losing his mind. He's getting crazy. And so then shortly thereafter, right before they are deported in Paris, she meets up again with Harry to basically tell him what's going on and, kind of sort of say goodbye. And this is their conversation.
How's your hand?
It's fine. I'm sorry.
You're trying to help me understand.
No, I actually wanted to hurt you. Couldn't bear to see such dumb, beautiful happiness in someone. It was cruel of me.
I am not sorry. If I know the world, I can improve it.
You can't. That is the real point. Don't accept the lie of religion, socialism, capitalism. We are a fucked species. Know it. Hope is smashable. Realism is not. Protect yourself with the truth.
I realize what you are now, Harry. Just a broken little boy who cannot bear the pain of the world.
I suppose so.
Goodbye, Harry. We get thrown off in Marseille.
Why do you stay with him?
I always think it will be better.
Of course you do.
All little bits of dialogue like this that just make this movie spectacular. I just love all this little stuff where he's basically like, we're a fucked species, hope is smashable, realism is not, like all these little lines. This thing is sprinkled with all these wonderful little back and forths with all the different characters. So they are marooned in Paris with no money. Although they don't really have no money because she knows that Godwin secretly sewed a bunch of cash into her clothing in case of an emergency. But she doesn't reveal that quite yet. So they're there and...
Well, she's learning then.
Yes. And so Mark Ruffalo is like, what are we going to do? We have no money. We're literally on the street. And she says, well, let me go around and see if I can get us a room. And so she happens to wander up to a brothel. And she's talking to the woman, the madam who runs the brothel. And the woman's like, well, I can give you a hotel room. Basically, you pay me 10 francs and the guy that's in there with you gives you 30. So you make a little money. And she says, I don't know what you mean. She's like, what, you don't know what prostitution is? And she says, no. So I sleep with men for money? And the madam says, well, yeah. And she's like, well, that's a good idea. I like sex. Sure, let's do it. And so she spends the whole day in the brothel and makes money. And then comes back to Mark Ruffalo and says, hey, I've got some money. And he says, or she comes back and she's got food, not money. And she's like, oh, I bought us some food and I've got us a room. And he's like, how did you get a room? And she says, oh, well, I just slept with a bunch of men and they gave me money. And he just, like, I should have clipped it, but I didn't want to have 4 hours worth of clips because it's a 2 hour and 20-minute movie. But his reaction is just, I mean, Ruffalo's really good in this too, because it's just like this mix of complete incredulity to what is going on because she just doesn't care. There's no morality for her. She's just like, what? I like having sex. They're paying me. I know where we can have a place to stay. And he's like, fuck you. And he's like, you know, and then she reveals that she actually has some money. And she's like, fine, if you want to leave, I'll give you some of this money that Godwin gave me and you could go wherever you want. And he grabs all the money and leaves. And she doesn't care because now she has a source of income. So she goes back and she's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to work here for a while. And the madam's like, okay, you're young and you're good looking. So sure. And so there's a good portion of the movie where she's working as a prostitute. And, you know, she's making money and she's having a good time and she's experiencing all different types of men and what they're into. So again, it's all experience. And she starts to have a relationship with one of the female prostitutes that's there. And at one point, the female prostitute, who becomes kind of her girlfriend because she sticks with her through the end of the movie, notices she has a scar on her stomach and says, oh, when did you have a C-section? And she says, no, that's not a C-section. Godwin explained that I had a tumor that had to be removed. And the woman says, no, I know what that scar is because I have one too. And I've seen it before. So I don't know what he told you, but there's always little clues that her identity is known somewhere. So, and that obviously what Godwin has told her isn't all the truth. You don't really know what she knows because he said, I didn't tell her everything. So there's all these little clues that Godwin hasn't told her everything, right? So there's a point where, and as she's there, she's studying, she's doing all this stuff. We're cutting back to London. We're seeing the other woman that they created. And the other woman, again, is developing, but slowly. And then Godwin has a tumor. And they figure out, oh, this tumor has spread. He's dying. And so Max says, okay, I will go find Bella and I'll bring her back. I'll just make sure you don't die before I bring her back. And so he goes and he finds Mark Ruffalo in a sanitarium where he's raving and ranting and says, Godwin's dying. I have to find Bella. Tell me where she is. And he says, as far as I know, she's working as a whore. Go find her, whatever, blah, 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 blah. You know, and so he does manage to track her down and brings her back. And she meets up with Godwin and they have a conversation about, you know, her life and, you know, what exactly her background is. And this is that back and forth.
God.
Bella.
Max wrote me. You are ill.
I am not. I am dying. A subtle difference, but one I take seriously as a physician. You are a sight and a good one.
You cannot die.
Empirical data says different. I missed you. I now have to lie down.
It is not all sunshine I bring. I also bring beady eyes and hard questions. Did I have a baby in me? And if so, where is it?
I see. Well, technically, you are your baby. And also, I suppose, you are your mother. And also neither. No memory survives, no experiences survive.
What do you mean I am mother and daughter?
Oh, dear.
You knew and did not tell.
I did not see good reason to.
And were too cowardly to.
A bit of that as well. I wanted to be with you, and I was not sure you would even understand. And Baxter kind of makes one a prisoner to him, and I'm sorry.
Right. So that was what I was talking about where he says, you know, I kind of was entranced by him and don't get me wrong, it's not, there's no point where it's presented as an excuse, but that explains why he wouldn't tell her before then. And so she sees the other version that they've created and she says, you're both monsters. And so she goes and she walks around and she goes out to the bridge where, well, technically she committed suicide. And she comes back and she has this long back and forth with Defoe's character and basically says, I both hate you and love you. I understand, you know, that you were shaped by this person. it doesn't mean I forgive you, but at the same time, you know, I understand that you did give me another life. Like, she understands that she would have died, or she would not be alive without him. So there is this kind of complexity in her relationship with Defoe, which I think is really well done. And so after that, she and Max go for a walk where she's basically going to talk to Max about, okay, well, I've done some things and I know we're supposed to be married, so maybe we should talk about where we're going to go from here. And this is that discussion that they're having as they're walking along a lakeside.
He does not have long.
I know. You've not mentioned our betrothal.
You were much younger. There is no bind. I was mesmerized by you and Baxter took advantage.
So you were mesmerized no more?
I am still mesmerized.
I've been a whore, you understand? Coxed for money inside me. You okay with that? Does the whoring thing challenge the desire for ownership that men have? Wedderburn became much weepy and sweary when he discovered my whoring.
I find myself merely jealous of the men's time with you, rather than any moral aspersion against you. It is your body, Bella Baxter. Yours to give freely.
I generally charged 30 francs.
Well, that seems low.
Do you believe people improvable, Max?
I do. Just as a human body can be cured of illness, so can men and women be cured of aspects.
Will you marry me, Max McCandless?
I will.
We will need less of your tongue in the future, but overall most agreeable.
I will take that note. And have you been checked for, disease?
I have not, but I shall. I'm enjoying this practical love we have.
But I assure you mine is also passionate.
You're adorable. You always were.
So as you can hear, Max is okay with her background and basically, you know, wants to marry her. And so they go ahead and they're about to get married. They're in the church. Everything's going fine. At which point, two men walk in. One is a guy who has a bunch of medals and looks like a, you know, soldier type. And behind him is a gibbering Mark Ruffalo who has found this person because he basically showed Bella's picture around and somebody said, that's my wife who killed herself.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
Yeah, so this is her husband because legal, I mean, you know, how the hell would you ever work this out? But as far as he can tell, this is his wife. They don't tell him anything of what's going on. And you very quickly figure out that this guy is a real fucking piece of shit. He pulls a gun constantly on people. Like he's some kind of war hero, but every person he talks to, at some point he pulls out a pistol and points it at them. And he is very quickly revealed to be a monster who got her pregnant. She didn't want to keep the child. He would not let her get rid of it. And that is why she killed herself. She figures out that this guy is why she wanted to die. So now she's stuck with him because basically he's like, you try to leave and I'll kill you. And so she's trying to figure out how to escape. She's not really afraid of him, but she understands that there is a threat.
That there is a danger, yeah.
Yeah, that this guy is basically a fucking lunatic. And so she's kind of, and I mean, he treats his servants, everybody. He is a monster. I mean, a certifiable monster. And so there's a point where she's kind of looking around, trying to find a way out, and she happens to overhear him talking to a physician. And he says, and you don't know exactly what they're talking about, but it's something where they have to drug her and a procedure is going to be performed, which at first I thought...
They're going to lobotomize her.
That's exactly what I had thought initially, but in fact, it is not that. So she figures out, so she goes and confronts him, and then we find out exactly what's going to happen, and boy, does this guy have a philosophy.
Martini.
Rather not. I would, however, like to leave. I have found our time together interesting, but have ascertained why I jumped from a bridge. I wish to go see my near-dead god.
Adorable idea. Unfortunately, my darling, my life is dedicated to the taking of territory. You are mine, and that is the long and short of it.
I am not territory.
The root of the problem is between your legs. I will have it off, and it will not distract and divert you anymore. You see, a man spends his life wrangling his sexual compulsions. It's a curse, and yet in some ways, his life's work. A woman's life's work is children. I intend to rid you of that infernal packet between your legs and plant a seed in you straight after.
Let me explain what has happened. Victoria, your wife, threw herself from a bridge and died. Godwin Baxter found her, brought her to his surgery. He then removed the baby, removed the brain from the baby, transplanted it into my head, and reanimated me. I'll bring you the file. It's actually quite fascinating. However, I will keep my new life, my lovely old clitoris. Thank you. If you would call a carriage for me.
They talk, and yet at some point there's nothing left but to pull a gun.
As I said, this guy pulls a gun at some point in almost every fucking conversation he has. So he basically points the gun at her and says, here's what it is. You're either going to drink this drink, which is the sedative that he was talking about with the doctor to knock herself out, or I'm going to shoot you in the, I believe he says in the heart. And so she walks up to him and she says, you know, maybe it wouldn't be so bad to be rid of all the pressure of you know, making decisions in life and having to run into all these situations. And he says, oh, good, you're seeing reason. And he gives her the drink, which she throws in his face. And while he's blinded, she starts to wrestle the gun away from him. And he shoots himself in the foot, but she gets the gun. So she's got the gun and she's holding it on him. And he's looking at her. He's like, okay, now I have to kill you. And I should have clipped this, but it doesn't really work audio-wise, but it's a beautiful little piece of filmmaking. There's this very overpowering, sinister music that's playing when he's saying this stuff about killing her. And then he starts to walk forward, and he falls down immediately, and the music just cuts. And he's just a wreck on the floor because he shot himself in the foot, and he's bleeding, like, out. So he's immediately kind of reduced to nothing. And it's just really, really, the way they do the music, it's very, very well done. And so she looks at him, and she's like, well, I can't just lead you to bleed. I can't allow you to just bleed to death here. That would make me a monster or something like that. So she then drags him back to Godwin's house, or gets him there somehow.
Oh, does she have his sex parts removed?
No. So she brings him back, and Max is like, well, what are we going to do with him? We can't just let him die here. And she says, yeah, that would make me as bad as everybody else. So no, we can't let him die here. And she's like, I have an idea though, because you know, she's been studying surgery, and she specifically studied what Godwin has been doing. So she takes his brain and puts it into, she takes the brain of a goat and puts it in his body. So you see Godwin dies, and Max and her at his side when he dies. And then the next thing you see is they're all sitting outside of the house. And Godwin says, I've left you my surgery. My surgery is yours. You're every bit as capable as I am. You know, now go forth and, you know, and she's going to train. And she says, oh, I have a test coming up. And you see that the guy, her ex-husband or her current husband, whatever, is walking around like eating grass as a goat. And he's like going, bah, bah, and you can see like the scar on his head. And the female prostitute is there, and Max is there. So I think the idea is that all three of them are in a relationship together. And you see that the woman that Godwin had created is now starting to learn because Bella is helping her. And so she's kind of picking it up faster. And the end is just all of them in the garden, and Bella is content. And then the movie just ends. Like, you just see her sitting there studying, and she kind of smiles, and then the movie ends. And that's the movie. It's fucking amazing. I don't know that I would ever watch it. I won't watch it often. But if this comes out, which it probably will, in a Criterion edition, I'll buy it. It's that good a movie. It is.
It will. You know it will.
Yeah. I don't even know how. I don't know what I could even compare this thing to. It is so singular in just about every way. And like, there's nobody bad in it, but Emma Stone carries the whole movie. If she didn't do the performance she did, this could not work. She is excellent. I've seen her in stuff. I don't really have an opinion of her. I never thought she was great in anything. Never thought she was bad in anything. But man, she's fucking great in this. I mean, it is one of those things where, again, if it's not done well enough, the whole thing falls apart. And she's fantastic. The whole movie is. And there's tons of really great dialogue. I didn't capture nearly all of it at all because, like I said, it's 2 hours plus. Doesn't feel like that. There is a ton of full frontal nudity, including from Emma Stone. So this is not a family film by any stretch of the imagination. And so there is a ton of sex in this thing, which bothers some people. It didn't bother me because it's often hilarious. And a lot of it is clinical, where you see Bella kind of trying to work out why people are doing what they're doing. So some men are into foreplay, some aren't. There's one guy when she's at the brothel who she kind of works out this thing that she does where she tells a joke, the guy tells her something very personal, and then they have sex. And that's like her pattern. So that way she's learning about people, but it also, it offsets the awkwardness when she tells the joke. And then there's, a guy comes and he's training his young sons on what sex is, and he's having trouble getting all the way to the end. And she's like, well, what can help that is a little bit of choking or a finger up the asshole. Let's try the choking first. And they do that, and it works. And she's like, take a note, boys. And one of them is writing in a journal. Like, there's all this stuff like this. It is, again, it's such a hard movie to really compare to anything. Because it's one of those movies, and again, I go back to Gilliam, because Gilliam's films all feel like Gilliam's films. Like, his style. He has this...
Has this director done anything else?
Oh, yeah. This guy's done, I believe it's a man. Hold on. Yorgos. Yorgos Lanthimos has done... He did The Lobster, The Killing of a Sacred Deer,
Oh,
Dogtooth.
The Lobster. Okay,
yeah.
I know.
So,
this
is somebody who's known for having his stuff.
A unique vision of things. You've seen The Lobster, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Which I was not impressed with nearly as much as I was this film. I thought it was fun.
Oh, no. But you have to admit, it is a unique vision of
No,
things.
it is. But this feels like...
Well, you have to... I think you have to get up to this point.
Well, I was going to say, if he were to say I'm retired after this, I would completely understand. This is one of those types of movies where it's like, this... Nobody else makes something like this. There are parts of other directors I see in it, but not this one It is almost something I could have seen Gilliam as a different person making because of the surreality of it, but he would never have made this movie. It's such a specific type of film. And it has a very, very identifiable voice to it. And that's part of it. And also the fact that he got Emma Stone to do what is probably it's the best thing I've ever seen her do, where I forgot who she was. I had to keep remembering this is Emma Stone, who's been in lots of kind of pop stuff.
Well,
like
they've changed her look too. Like, they've given her a very sort of stark look.
But also the way she speaks and moves at points. There's all this stuff where it's very clear that it is one of these things where my hunch is, and I've read a little bit about it, and this is what it sounds like is also somewhat confirmed, is she and the director really kind of talked over this movie and understood what they were going for and had a lot of trust in each other. And that is what allowed the movie to work this way, because it is completely reliant on her. I mean, I'm sure there are other actresses who could do it. I'm not going to say nobody else could possibly do this, but whoever did it would have to do this level of work to make it so that so this movie wasn't a train wreck, because this could so easily have been, as a comparison point on the opposite end, this is what Showgirls of its type was supposed to be. Showgirls was supposed to be like a very pointed kind of satire of a life of a woman who's on the run, and instead it became a clown show because only Elizabeth Berkley was taking it seriously, and kind of nobody else was. And this movie, everybody is on the same page. They all understand what this is. The humor is very funny. I mean, you laughed at multiple points during the clips. There's legitimately many funny moments and then very serious moments that are played very well. They balance very well. So I can't recommend it to everybody, and the thing is, this is one of these weird things where the trailer, because it can't show you a lot of things in this movie, it's somewhat deceptive, because you have to understand, you are going to have a lot of challenging things thrown at you. You cannot watch this in mixed company. Like, there's stuff going on in this movie.
Yeah, don't watch this. Don't watch with your parents.
That's, boy. Unless your parents ran a Parisian brothel in a steampunk Victorian era London, where they'll understand where the woman is coming from, who runs it. I mean, that woman too, I didn't capture any of that. The brothel owner is having this discussion with her about, because she says, why is it that some people can be so terrible? And the woman says, well, this is something you should embrace this. There are going to be terrible moments. These are moments you'll look back to, and they will help form who you are, and you'll understand why you're not terrible, because you've experienced terrible people. like all this, there's all this like little philosophical stuff all sprinkled throughout, and this idea of what experience does to you and how different people shape your life and how you can react to it. And even if you experience really terrible events and everything else, you can still come out optimistic and you can still make people better, because she ultimately does. I mean, she ends up as a person who is going to heal people. And I mean, don't get me wrong, she took the general and stuck a goat's brain into his body. But some people,
it, though.
But that's to the cynic's point. There are some people who are beyond it. This person would not have been stopped if this hadn't happened. He was, like I said, he is decorated war hero. Like at that time, nobody's going to stand up to this guy. Forget it. He was just a lunatic who had command because he was a powerful man. And so it took somebody who knew how to take the brain of a goat and stick it in a man's body to, to knock him down. So it's a beautifully made movie. It's fantastic. It is not for everybody, but I don't think there was ever a red band trailer for this. I don't know if even
I don't remember if there was one.
This is one of those movies where, because we complain about trailers and how they're often, misleading and not, like this one, I don't know how you market this. I don't know how you could actually communicate what this thing is.
But if you read anything about it, you immediately get the sense of the fact that there is a lot of nudity involved.
Yes. But my point would be, don't go by the trailer. This is a movie that is,
I don't know. See, outside of the nudity, I think having watched the trailer, the strangeness of the movie is communicated to some degree.
To some degree. It is
just
far
not to
weirder
the degree
than that
of
trailer
what is
is.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. There are things that aren't explained that might confuse some people, because honestly, even I was like, wait a minute, what did I just see there? At one point, I thought that he had cut the head off of a horse and attached it to a steampunk carriage, and then I realized, no, that's a fake horse that's on a steampunk carriage, so that it looks like other carriages that have horses, because he's sort of trying to blend in with people, even though he's not. He's teaching at a school, yet people are afraid of it. Like, there's all these weird things about it that you just have to, at some point, you have to just put the contradictions away, and you have to forget about, or not forget about, but you have to just accept that this is not a real world. And that might be difficult for some people, because it dances all over the place. It's dealing with real things in a non-real space.
It's a fantastical tale about real ideas.
Right. And there is a degree of, because even at points I was like, why are you not leaving this person? But then she explains, because I kept thinking it would get better. And that is a real thing that happens to women who are trapped in terrible relationships, is some of them do honestly believe that there will be a positive outcome, even though there's no indication that this person is going to change, and that in fact, fundamentally, they are tainted and evil people, not evil or whatever, damaged people. You never get any explanation of why Ruffalo's character is the way he is, but you just presume that it's because he's been able to cruise on women who he just dominated, and they never spoke up because maybe polite society says you shouldn't challenge the men who are apparently running the show for you. And so that's what I mean, is there's just a lot of stuff in the movie. I think it's a beautifully made movie. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. But like I said, it's not necessarily just I've seen it called a dark comedy. That's sort of true, but I think that's very reductive. I don't think saying it's a black comedy is really, or a dark comedy even, is the right way. There are comedic elements, but
it sounds like a fantastical comedy.
Yeah, it's hard to define what it is, which is not a negative. That's a positive.
I was planning on seeing it when it was available to stream, so when it is
and I don't think it'll be
watch
too long. I think it'll be out pretty soon. So
cool.
Hold on, I can tell you probably who will have it too. Searchlight Pictures is the releasing company. They're owned by Disney, therefore it will be, oh wow, will this be on Disney Plus? Boy, could you imagine this sitting next to, like 101 Dalmatians? Oh man. So, you know what? It'll probably be, I think Hulu is still considered their adult line. So it will probably be on Hulu. It probably won't be on Disney Plus. It'll probably be on Hulu, because I think they're still using Hulu for their adult stuff, where they don't want to mix it in so that your child accidentally clicks on this movie thinking, oh, look, she's in a pretty dress. Is this supposed to be like a Cinderella? No, stop. One of those type of things. So my guess is it will end up on Hulu, because I think that is their adult section. So anyway, that's it. That's all I have as a review, because it's one of those movies where I don't even want to talk to you about anything else, because this movie is so good. So if you get the chance to watch it somehow, by all means do if you're at all interested. Just like I said, be aware of what's in it. Otherwise, it is out for the $20 digital rental. Had I paid $20 for it, I would happily have paid it again.
Honestly, it sounds like it's worth the $20. So
yeah, and I mean, it's gorgeously filmed too. I mean, the music, you heard some bits of it there, it's really
peculiar,
but very well suited to its scenes. That's what I mean about, I love the little bit they do with the guy when he gets shot in the foot. The visuals do look like motion paintings. Like there's, and very fantastical, very City of Lost Children type of feeling too. There's some of that in there where everything again has that kind of hyper reality and non-reality to it. So if you can see it in on a good TV, it will benefit it. But whatever, like I said, I really, really, really enjoyed it. And I will be very surprised if Emma Stone is not nominated for something, because she is stellar in this. So everybody is, but it is clearly 75% of this movie is her. Everything else is in service to her performance, which makes me very impressed with her. Because like I said, I had a kind of a non-opinion of her, but based on this, she's fucking great. If she never does anything again, she still got this. Everybody in this is kind of like, well, if you never do anything again, you got this.
You did this, yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. That's all I've got for this week. So on that note, whatever you watch this weekend, full frontal nudity or not, enjoy it, and we will talk to you again next week. And I guess go rate us on IMDb because we're there for some reason. I don't know why. If you can figure that mystery out, if you're the one who submitted us somehow, by all means, tell me, because I don't know who did it. But we're there. So anyway, that's it. Have a great weekend. Talk to you next week. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.